Good evening, everybody. The Durham Public Schools Board of Education work session is now in session. At this time, we wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone who is joining us here and online this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to inform our parents, our staff, and constituents about the work aligned with our mission to embrace, educate, and empower every student to innovate, serve, and lead. The interpreters for tonight are Karen Reyes and Yvette Perez. Thank you for taking the time to join us. This meeting is being interpreted live into Spanish with a delay of a few seconds. So we kindly ask, and I will try to remember this too, that you please pace yourself, pause between ideas, and speak clearly so that everybody can follow along. The next item on the agenda is a moment of silence. And I ask that this evening, as we enter this moment of silence, we take a moment to acknowledge and take some time to reflect on a profound loss that has been experienced here in the Durham Public Schools community. While attending a routine asylum appointment with their parents in Charlotte earlier this week, 2 of our elementary school students were detained and deported. Where there was laughter and joy, we now have 2 empty seats in our classrooms and a school community ruptured by immigration enforcement. This is not normal. It's not okay. Here in Durham Public Schools, we will continue to do all that we can to support families impacted by this loss and by the constant threat posed by immigration enforcement agencies. With that, a moment of silence. Thank you. The next item on the agenda this evening is agenda review and approval.
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Harold Goff to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, please use the same sign. All right, the agenda as presented passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the Board of Education meeting minutes from March 12th, 2026.
Move approval of the Board of Education minutes from March 12th, 2026.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Harold Goff and seconded by Ms. Byer to approve the meeting minutes from March 12th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The meeting minutes from March 12th, 2026 pass unanimously as presented. The next item on the agenda is general public comment. So before we begin, I'll do a quick review of the rules. First, please state your name. If speaking for an organization, please state your name and the name of the organization. Second, speakers are asked to present their comments in 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, you have 30 seconds left to start winding up your remarks. When the red light comes on, it will beep, which indicates that your time is up. Complaints about named staff, students, or parents should not be voiced in open session. However, we are very interested in hearing your concerns with regard to public education, the safety of students, and the operation of the school system. Finally, board members will listen carefully and consider the comments, but we do not engage in a discussion with speakers. The first speaker, and I'm going to name maybe 3 at a time so you can be prepared to come up. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce any names. The first speaker is Katora Mason, followed by Anna Messenger, followed by Natasha Ott.
Good evening. My name is Katoria Mason. I am the manager over at Hamlin Road and Transportation. I'm not coming to ask for anything or any complaints. I'm coming with an open, grateful heart and to just say thank you to each and every one of you for all the hard work that you do. But especially thank you for what I call that I've been praying for, my dream team in transportation. There has been a 360-degree turnaround in transportation. They are working hard to continue on this path. Heading up is Mr. Kenneth Barnes. He's the head of that operation. Thank you, Mr. Barnes, for all that you do, all your hard work that goes unnoticed to a lot, but we see exactly what you do. Also, Mr. Anthony White as well, who's continually grinding. Also, who is not here, Mr. Joe Harris. I have sat in the room with him and Mrs. Tammy Phillips to see them work their magic and made ways out of no way for routing. So my hat goes off to them, and also Mr. Tony Leak. These are individuals that work really hard and never, ever get thank you. It's always complaints. And I also want to thank our staff who never get recognized for the hard work that they do. The assistant area managers and the managers that are at the job in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock, never ends until 7, and very rarely get a lunch break. So to all the assistant managers and the managers, thank you for all the hard work that you do. We appreciate you. I appreciate the board. I appreciate you, Dr. Lewis. Again, thank you for the hard work that you're doing and continue to do. I know it's hard. I know you get thousands of complaints. But always remember, if you're doing your best and your very best, that's all you can ask for. He knows and he sees what you're doing. Amen. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Next on the list, Anna Messenger.
Hi, I'm Anna Messenger. I'm a retired educator, and I will yield my time to Natasha Ott.
I'm short. Good evening, board members. Good evening, Superintendent Lewis. My name is Natasha Rodriguez Ott, and I serve as the PTA president at Murray Massenburg Elementary School. And as you know, we are Durham's newest elementary school, and we, over the last 2 years, our staff, students, and parents have worked tirelessly to build a community in this new school from the ground up. And we have a community that every day is actively choosing to be in DPS. However, I'm here tonight because a recent policy shift in the district is undermining that hard work. And this past fall, the district enacted a policy that stops the sponsorship of teachers that are here on J1 visas to continue on if the school so chooses. And because of this change, one of our most beloved educators in our school, Mr. Herrera, you could wave, Mr. Herrera. Thank you. He's now halfway through the school year, finding himself without a clear path forward in our district. And I want to be very direct about the stakes here. First, we're already in a teacher retention crisis. We have many schools that start the year without enough staff members. And we can't afford to lose teachers who are actually wanting to stay and be here and form a community with us. Second, we're losing students to charter schools on a regular basis. And what keeps families at Murray Massenburg at DPS is the stability of the classroom, our amazing educators that we trust and love. And when we lose a teacher like this, who we've really formed relationships with, we lose the trust of the parents. And I've already been hearing this from our PTA members and beyond. Finally, there's an issue of fairness here where Mr. Herrera was already 6 months into the visa process and has our school name on his application, on his waiver. And when this policy was changed, there was no intermediate period or transition period for this time. And also on the heels of this moment of silence we shared earlier, we're now here telling teachers that they don't have a place here and to stay here within our district, which does not seem right when they are part of our community. So in closing, I want to say that Mr. Herrera is exactly the kind of educator we need here in DPS. And we really need him here if we want to stay competitive and keep our families within our public schools. And Murray Massenburg is a school that we feed into from neighborhoods that are choosing places like DA and charter schools on a regular basis. We need to keep our teachers there to keep those students coming into our school and transferring in. And Mr. Herrera is an integral part of the community and a reason why parents, including our students who are Spanish speakers, why they feel comfortable coming to school every day. And so we aren't asking you to overhaul the whole district policy. We are asking for a policy exemption to keep Mr. Herrera in our community, as he was already in this process and really is part of what we've created as a school. We really can't talk about student success and push teachers out of buildings at the same time. We love our teachers. And as an example of that, we have teachers here, we have parents here, and we students here as well, who all really want to show that we need this exception because he means so much to us in our community. In closing, I'll say that we've a dedicated professional who is already really a part of our growing family at Murray Massenburg 2 years in, and we want to keep him. So throughout this evening, you're going to hear comments from our parents and teachers, and our students are here to tell you that we really do want him and hope you'll make an exemption.
Thank you so much. The next person on the list is Naomi Chan, and then that's followed by Peyton Harwell and Catherine Doring.
Good evening. My name is Naomi Chan. I am a teacher at Murray Massenburg, and I will be yielding my time to Ms. Catherine Doring.
I'm sorry, the next person on the list is Peyton Harwell.
I am yielding my time to Peyton Harwell.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Peyton Harwell. I'm also a teacher at Murray Massenburg. I just wanted to quickly say that Mr. Herrera is like unlike any other art teacher I've ever experienced, and I will now yield my time to Ms. Catherine Doring.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Hester Doring. I'm here tonight on behalf of many families that you've met here from Murray Massenburg Elementary. And we have come together as a community to ask you to please reconsider this decision not to renew Mr. Herrera's visa. I'm here as a parent, but also as a lifelong artist whose own life was so profoundly shaped by art educators in North Carolina public schools. Lifelong North Carolina public school girl here, and proud to have my children in them. I want to tell you that Mr. Herrera is an extraordinary art teacher. I wish I had him. I want to go to class every day. But even more than that, he is a cornerstone of our school community. You are. When I walk my child into school, we are often warmly greeted by Mr. Herrera. He has even taught my 4-year-old, a future Murray Massenburg Panther, some of his very first Spanish words. He helps make our school a place where every child feels that they belong. Parents describe him as exceptional, a vital member of our community, and the kind of educator who goes the extra mile. But more importantly, they describe what he does. He fills our hallways with vibrant, skillful, and culturally rich student artwork. He takes students to the Nasher Museum. I got to go on that field trip, lucky me. And he encourages them to display their artwork proudly. He builds confidence in children who struggle to express themselves. He creates a space where students feel seen and brings our school to life through art, through culture, and connection. One parent shared that their child now turns to art in moments of stress because of Mr. Herrera. Another said their granddaughter's confidence is through the roof. That's what education is supposed to do. Ignite limitless potential, right? His impact even extends beyond the classroom. He is present at everything. The talent show, the fall festival, the readathon celebration that was epic this morning. He designs the banners and the artwork for these events, and it brings energy and pride and unity to our school. Mr. Herrera is also a critical support to our Spanish-speaking families. When so many in our community were afraid during the ICE raids earlier this year, Mr. Herrera organized the creation of a banner hung at the entrance to school. It was visible to our daily car line with a collage of student handprints and the phrase, "En solidaridad." a visible message of love and solidarity to all who felt vulnerable. Tonight, our students and families have created a sign for him in that same spirit, and we want to make it clear to all of you, and we want to make it clear to you, most of all, Mr. Herrera, that we stand with you in solidaridad. So board members, at a time when Durham Public Schools faces a shortage of certified teachers, we are choosing to lose one we already know is extraordinary. That just doesn't make sense. I know many of you and many of us are all asking ourselves, why are teachers and students leaving DPS? And this is one of the reasons why. When policies prevent schools from keeping educators who are deeply rooted in our communities, who are loved, who are effective, we create instability where there could be strength. It is also just important to acknowledge that this change happened partway through Mr. Herrera's visa process. I know Natasha touched on that. And this is just more than a policy shift. It's just an unjust and frankly short-sighted disruption to a teacher and a community that are deeply invested in each other. Our families want to make this very clear. We just can't afford to lose him. Educators like Mr. Herrera are exactly what our schools need. And so we are asking you to help us keep a teacher who is already making Durham Public Schools and Murray-Massenburg Elementary School stronger, who sets the standard and raises the bar daily, who shows us both who we are and who we aspire to be as a school and even as a district. People are not made to serve policies. Policies are made to serve people. And what we have at Murray-Massenburg with Mr. Herrera is real. So we implore you to take the necessary action, whatever that looks like, that's your job, right? So that Mr. Herrera can continue his everyday magic, transforming our children's lives and making our Panther Nation at Murray-Massenburg Elementary School the pride of Durham Public Schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Taylor Cook, followed by Jonathan, I'm sorry, Zeifel and Emily Barnacle. Taylor Cook.
That's a tough one to follow. Taylor Cook, I'm a parent of 2 girls at Murray-Massenburg. Mr. Herrera has had such a positive impact, not only in our children's lives and in their artistic development, but also on the school community as a whole. Both of our girls love him and love their art class the most of all their specials. Mr. Herrera even selected one of our daughter's artworks to showcase at the DPS Superintendent Art Show last fall with Dr. Lewis. She was so honored. Mr. Herrera did an amazing job with all of the participants to help make it a very special event. More than that, Mr. Herrera is just an integral part of the school community. He's always at the after-school events. He helps with not only art events, but dance and music events at school, helping the children better understand his heritage and giving them perspectives they wouldn't otherwise receive. Mr. Herrera has been at early morning PTA meetings, helping translate the conversation for non-English speakers. He often also serves as translator for school events and for announcements. As kids are arriving in the morning, he's in the hallways, greeting them with a smile, helping them if they need direction or have any tough time, answering questions, and simply providing a warm start to their day. DPS can keep great families by keeping great teachers. Mr. Herrera is so much more than an art teacher. He's part of our community, and he helps us thrive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jonathan Zeifel.
Yes, my name is Jonathan Zeifel. I'm a parent of a second grader at Murray Massenburg. She drew this. This is my daughter Penelope with Mr. Herrera. Mr. Herrera is her art teacher, and he inspires her, and he inspires me. And he's the kind of teacher that we just can't afford to lose at DPS. Cannot. And I yield the rest of my time to
Thank you. Emily Barnacle.
Good evening. My name is Emily Barnacle. I'm a parent of 2 children at Murray Massenburg, and I will yield my time to Lily Witten.
Thank you. Next person on the list is Lily Witten, followed by Chad Hafel and Molly Weeks.
Good evening. My name is Lily Witten. I'm a parent of 2 children at Murray Massenburg Elementary. In 5 years of being a parent in DPS, tonight is the first school board meeting I've ever attended. I'm here on behalf of the students, teachers, and families of Murray Massenburg, asking you to reconsider the decision to not renew and to not let Murray Massenburg renew the visa of our beloved art teacher, Mr. Herrera. I first met Mr. Herrera the summer before Murray Massenburg opened. The building wasn't completed, the teachers hadn't set foot in the classrooms, but here they were, gathered on a hot July day in a YMCA playground, ready to meet their new students who were already sticky covered in popsicles. His enthusiasm that day was infectious and gave me such confidence about the brand new environment that our children were stepping into. From that day forward, Mr. Herrera has continued to show up for his students in every possible way. He is a driving force in our school, championing students and building their confidence through ever-changing art gallery displays and club gatherings. He gives endlessly of himself and his time, his energy, supporting every school production, including theater performances, Hispanic Heritage Nights, talent shows, and more. Mr. Herrera teaches and influences our students not just through his warm style of instruction and his very patient explanations of art technique, but by demonstrating how to treat other people and how to give back to those around you. His positive impact on our children and on our school community is unmatched. At the beginning of this school year, my 7-year-old declared, out of nowhere, that she wanted to join the art club. This was a new endeavor for her, and she was nervous. She shared her goal with Mr. Herrera, who encouraged and supported her while she conquered her nerves over several weeks, patiently discussing with her which art pieces she wanted to submit for the application portfolio. She successfully joined art club, I think everyone does, and looks forward to their time together every week as her skills and her confidence grows. My daughter calls herself an artist now, even keeping a sketchbook and pencil in her bed at night. Her dad and I are so grateful for a teacher who makes the time not just to know every student by name, but who helps them see something new in themselves and go after it. Mr. Herrera made a commitment to Durham Public Schools and to his students at Murray Massenburg. He has remained steadfast in that commitment and demonstrates his resolve every day by connecting with students, encouraging and inspiring them to try something new. He's an asset to our students and our school community. Changing the terms of his employment midway through the renewal process is wrong, and it's unfair. At a time when we as a district should be looking for ways to retain teachers, this new policy feels poorly thought out and harmful to students and schools alike. Murray Massenburg leadership planned ahead for this renewal process, knowing Mr. Herrera's value, and set aside funding specifically for this purpose. Yet, the board has stated that we are unable to follow that plan. To what end? While DPS is losing students and educators to charters and other districts, it's unfathomable to me that the board would turn down a solution to retain a highly qualified, engaged, and beloved teacher. We know that teachers leave schools for many reasons, and we should not be adding to that list. We should be creating solutions and pathways for them to stay. We are asking you to reconsider this decision and support whatever actions needed would allow Mr. Herrera to continue sharing his talents at our school and encouraging our children to grow into themselves. Mr. Herrera is the epitome of the kind of teacher we want to keep in DPS. He is dedicated, compassionate, inclusive, and kind. Our school, our community, and the entire district are better with him. Thank you for considering.
Thank you so much. The next speaker on the list is Chad. Hayfield.
Hi, my name is Chad Hafley. I'm here as a parent of students at Hope Valley Elementary and Rogers Her Middle School. I'm not here to talk about Mr. Herrera, but he sounds wonderful, and I hope you all take the previous comments seriously. So last year I came and spoke to the board about the previous proposal for express busing. I thought it was a bad idea then, and I think it's a bad idea now. Last time you made the right call by not implementing express busing, and I hope you'll do the same thing again. And I do want to thank you for exempting elementary schools from this new proposal. That's a step in the right direction. And I think the proposal does make some sense for schools like DSA that enroll students from throughout the entire county. But express busing for attendance zone-based secondary schools in the magnet program still has the same problems from last year. I would ask, what's your metric of success here? If your goal is to increase on-time buses, I think express will work. But the mission of public busing isn't just to have on-time vehicles, it's to get kids to school. You'd be cutting down the list of who can take the bus in the first place, putting a burden on families and calling that success. Families without that extreme flexibility during the workday will effectively be shut out of the secondary magnet school program. The Growing Together redistricting a few years ago was all about increasing equitable access to all of these programs. So why do we even do that if you're going to throw away many of those gains with express busing? I would also point out that this is once again being considered after lotteries have closed for the year. And even with the 1-year lead time for many schools, I don't think that's enough of a heads up. Picking a school and community to be part of is a multi-year commitment, and families deserve to have a full picture of the logistics involved for the duration of that commitment that they're entering into. I would also ask that you take time to talk to families impacted by this change. I looked at tonight's slides. They have survey results from DSA parents, but no other schools. My daughter's at an impacted middle school, and tonight's agenda was the first time I even heard that it was being considered. So I want to point out the metrics issue one more time. Express busing could solve the wrong problem. It's all about efficiency of buses as vehicles and not the effectiveness of getting kids to and from school for their education. If you keep asking families to fill these logistical gaps, I don't think we can be surprised when they choose to leave DPS when it happens over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Molly Weeks.
Hi, my name is Molly Weeks, and I'm a Murray Massenburg parent, and I cede my time to Mr. Mike Truzzi.
All right, next speaker is Mike Truzzi, followed by Rob Fields and then Peter Crawford.
Thank you and good evening. My name is Mike Truzzi, and I serve as the music specialist at Murray Massenburg Elementary. Tonight, I stand in full support of a continuation visa on behalf of Mr. Elvin Herrera. I've worked with Mr. Herrera since we started the Global Teacher Program at DPS, 3 years at Eastway Elementary, and now nearly 2 years at Mary Massenburg. Mr. Herrera has served as the art specialist, school improvement team member, Hispanic Heritage Month facilitator, club facilitator, digital projects designer, translator, and interpreter. The list could go on for his leadership responsibilities at Mary Massenburg. As you can see, Mr. Herrera serves in many roles, and he does it with pride, honor, professionalism, and integrity. As a music specialist, we have presented several music productions together. Mr. Herrera always comes in with new and innovative artistic ideas to make each production better. His attention to details is unmatched. He goes above and beyond. He's the last team member to leave the school because of his dedication. I know this because I'm usually there too, and I usually have to say, Mr. Herrera, it's time to go home. One of the highlights that stands out is Mr. Herrera leading our school in the Community Arts Mural Project. It was great to see Mr. Herrera bring our school community together for the special project and then transfer that knowledge on community murals into a district-led PD for other art teachers in DPS. The art projects not only foster collaboration, but strengthen identity, belonging, and family engagement. Mr. Herrera has filled a critical need in our school that cannot be easily replaced. The loss of a teacher of his caliber would have a real and lasting negative impact, not just on scheduling, but also staffing, but more importantly, on the students' education. Mr. Herrera changes lives daily. I am honored to call him a great colleague and a great friend. Please consider honoring the continuation visa on behalf of Mr. Herrera so that he can continue to build the future of Durham. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rob Fields.
Hello. I'm Rob Fields, a DPS grandparent. Yesterday, DPS posted a video showing the board chair and 2 other board members purporting to reconvene a March 30 special board meeting. I found no notice of any March 30 meeting, nor of any meeting to be reconvened on April 8. 3 members do not constitute a quorum. Without a quorum, this board cannot conduct any official business. The video also shows those 3 members immediately moving into closed session without stating any statutory basis as required by North Carolina law. After about 2 hours, those same 3 members reappear and purport to recess the meeting to April 15, again, without a quorum. Separately, it has been publicly reported that a deputy superintendent was terminated around March the 6th. I can find no record of any public vote approving that action, which is required to occur in open session. All of these are legal requirements that determine whether your actions are valid. The board needs to fully explain what happened on March 30 and April 8, and clearly determine the status of the deputy superintendent through official public action. Durham deserves a Board of Education that operates lawfully, with full transparency, and in public. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Peter Crawford.
Hey folks, good evening. My name is Pete Crawford. I'm a parent of 3 DPS students, 2 of whom are at Murray-Massenburg Elementary School. If we fast forward 6 months to October, we will know by then what enrollment looks like for the 26-27 school year. And my fear is that it is going to be lower still than where it was this year. And those of you who are still on the board at that point are going to throw up your hands and say, why? What's going on? How is it that we keep losing students? And we can point to things like this, policies where we lose beloved members of our teaching community. And that leaves parents wondering, well, what do I do? It's highly disruptive, even at Murray-Massenburg, which we love, and I feel very grateful to be a part of. My 4th grader is on her 2nd teacher of the year already. At mid-year, she lost her beloved AIG teacher. This has a huge impact of her experience as a student in DPS when you have that kind of disruption. And so now we're faced with the prospect of losing Mr. Herrera, somebody who they absolutely adore and who has been a real force in giving them confidence in the district. They've had the opportunity to present their art at the show with you, Dr. Lewis, and elsewhere. I'm probably one of those parents who has spent more time with Mr. Herrera not in Murray-Massenburg than I have outside of it. At art shows, at sporting events, even at birthday parties. Y'all, he shows up to kids' birthday parties. He is a part of this community. And so if there was ever a reason to reconsider this visa policy, where we have teachers who are doing a phenomenal job, Mr. Herrera is one of them. He's a phenomenal teacher, but I know there are others in the district because my older daughter has had them as well in other settings who are here on visa and doing a phenomenal job. And we don't consider the outcomes of those teachers and the impact of retaining great teachers when we have a policy that's just directed at something that doesn't even appear to be cost related. And so I beg you, please consider changing the policy or at least grandfathering in some of these teachers who've become so integrated into our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the list is John Hodges Koppel, and I hear that we have one more also. So Mr. Hodges Koppel first, and then, okay, and then Mr. Savara.
Thanks. I'm John Hodges Koppel, and I'm here to make some initial comments about DPS capital planning. My theme both today and probably at future meetings is from the scientific method that we teach to our middle and high school students, that a hypothesis is not the same as a result. And in order to plan wisely, we need to make informed decisions based on transparent evidence and community engagement. I'll focus on one thing today: state guidelines related to the size of school sites and ideal enrollment levels, focusing on elementary schools since you're being asked to consider consolidating some elementary schools. The guidelines take up just 2 pages, and I'll leave each of you with a full copy of those 2 pages, if that's all right. Here's what they say. School sites, K to 6, 10 plus acres. Quote, the above guidelines assume a rural or suburban area with a 1-story building. Urban sites and areas that follow the tenets of smart growth may find creative solutions on substantially smaller sites and may involve multi-story construction. School enrollment. Quote, schools with membership sizes that fall within the following ranges can offer excellent educational programs with comprehensive curriculum while providing the most efficient use of space. Elementary schools, 450 to 700 students. Another quote, studies regarding school climate and safety suggest that schools with smaller membership sizes may have advantages over schools with larger membership sizes. Researchers suggest that ideal school membership sizes for improved safety and violence reduction are as follows. Elementary, 300 to 400 students. End of quote. I believe it is through careful consideration involving transparency, sharing of evidence, and extensive community engagement that we can make the best choices for our schools. I'm concerned that we are not yet following those tenets as we proceed into our next phase of capital facility planning. Thank you. And can I leave just these sheets for y'all?
Thank you so much. And our final speaker for the evening, Mr. Savara.
Hello, I'm Jim Savara, co-chair of the Policy Committee of the Coalition for Affordable Housing and Transit. You will recall that we sent a resolution to you in January about the unique opportunity the school board has to promote affordable housing along the rail trail in downtown Durham. We ask you to consider using part of the current Durham School of the Arts property for affordable housing. It is only 1 block away from the old rail line that's going to be redone. It is unclear that school systems in North Carolina have the legal authority to build and manage housing. This issue can be resolved by transferring the top 3 acres of the Durham School of the Arts site to the county government. Still, about 17 acres will be left for the Development Finance Initiative from UNC Chapel Hill to consider to analyze future development opportunities. We ask you, board members, to soon consider whether you are willing to sell the top 3 acres to the county. This is the area with no structures. It's actually separated by a street from the rest of the property. There are no other good large sites available for development of affordable housing close to the rail trail. Please let us know that you'd be willing to take that action and approach and ask the county to acquire the property. Then we and Durham Can, with its Affordable Housing Action Group, will work on building support in the county commission. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that concludes tonight's public comment. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming this evening, for sharing. The next item on the agenda is, the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda. Item 2A, school nutrition services bid renewals for 2026-27 school year. And item 2B, custodial supplies floor finish.
Second.
It's Been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Harold Goff to approve consent agenda items 2A and 2B. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Ms. Carter Otten.
Yes.
There's no contracts associated with the SNS bid renewals. Can they be added to board docs for the board to review before we approve them?
Thank you for that suggestion. Would that be possible? Who am I looking at? Mr. Barnes?
So, can,
Do you mean before, you said before we approve them?
yeah, before we approve them, like, we should be able to know and see what we're approving before we approve it.
So can I amend my motion that we move them to be the new item 7 right before follow-up and consider them then refresh and give time for staff to do that?
That works for me. I can't remember who seconded. Harold Goff.
How do you feel about that, Ms. Harold Goff?
That's fine.
So the motion is to approve consent agenda item 2B and to move consent agenda item 2A to be agenda item number 7.
Thank you. I apologize for catching that late. Sorry.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Harold Goff. Is there any more discussion about this? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And all those opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. We'll approve consent agenda item 2B and move 2A down to be agenda item number 7 as we wait for the remainder of the pieces of that to be uploaded into board docs. Okay, the next item on the agenda is agenda item 3A. That's a strategic plan priority 3 update. All right, we have Ms. Michelle Hayes to begin that presentation. Welcome this evening.
Doing. All right. So good evening, Chair Umstead, members of the board, Superintendent Lewis, cabinet members, and Dr. Smoots. So I would like to first introduce our team that's here tonight to present. So it would be myself, Michelle Hayes. We have Terry Phillips, Dr. Ida Hoare, and Anthony White. Dr. Cardoza could not be with us tonight, but I do have a summary that I would like to read on his behalf. Okay, so if we can move to the next slide. Okay, those are our priority team members that collectively has worked to get the information for us. Next slide. Our work in this priority area is guided by a comprehensive and interconnected set of strategies. While each strategy is impactful on its own, collectively they strengthen our recruitment pipeline, support our employees, and sustain a high-quality workforce. This evening, we will provide an overview of these strategies and highlight our next steps. Next slide. Our strategies include grow your own, recruitment, retention, career development, leadership development, compensation, new teacher support, affinity groups, staff wellness, and staff interviews. Next slide. With our Grow Your Own, Durham Public Schools continues to invest in developing internal talent pipelines. Through our Teacher Assistant to Teacher Pipeline, which is TA to TP, partnership with North Carolina Central University, we launched in fall of 2021. 28 instructional assistants, enrolled in NCCU's teacher education program. To date, 6 participants have completed the program and 3 additional participants are on track to graduate by 2027. When including those who transition to complete a residency pathway, 43% of participants will ultimately become or remain employees of Durham Public Schools. While we were unable to host a new TA to TP cohort this year due to budget constraints, we continue to share program opportunities with interested instructional assistants through our partner schools. From a financial perspective, DPS has invested approximately $169,403.57 in tuition support for this initiative since its inception. In addition, our Child Nutrition Department's Manager and Training Program has demonstrated strong success, with 19 out of 25 participants hired into management roles, a 76% success rate. Moving forward, we aim to expand similar grow your own models across additional departments. Should funding limitations continue, we will work closely with our university partners to identify alternative financial support options for participants. Then we will have grow your own transportation. Mr. White?
Next slide, please. So good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony White. I am the Executive Director of Auxiliary Services. I will be speaking about what we are doing in our Transportation Department to grow and retain our staff members. So throughout this school year, we have led job fairs in our community. We've done at least one per month. The last job fair that we completed was actually at Compare Foods here in Durham. As a department, we have a goal of increasing our Spanish-speaking and Hispanic population of our workforce. Right now, we are at a little less than 20, and we're looking to increase that number. And that number is with our bus drivers and safety assistants, and we're looking to increase that number. So our team has been working strategically at that goal. Next, we've also been partnering with community colleges in Granville County, also at Peabody Community College to hold job fairs as well. I also would like to speak to the initiative that we have started in partnership with Durham Tech Community College. We had 19 of our transportation employees who have participated in the inaugural Spanish class. And this is a professional development opportunity that our staff members have been asking for. And its aim is to increase the ability for our transportation staff to communicate with our families. Oftentimes, our families are calling in, needing assistance. We have our children getting on the bus. We are equipping our transportation team with the tools necessary to make every student in DPS feel welcome when they board a bus or when they need help from us in the transportation department. Again, our initial cohort had 19 people enrolled, and we are in session 1B right now. We will end the school year with a celebration to highlight all of the hard work and effort that our transportation staff has been putting into this program. And this is a partnership with the MSAP grant that we have here in Durham Public Schools. So as far as what's working, there's information here about where we are. I will say that our department has taken a proactive approach to try to get ahead of staffing before we get to the summer. We want to make sure that we start the next school year as ahead of the game as possible. So you can kind of take a look at the metrics and how we've been capturing applicants to join our workforce in the transportation department. Like I said, some of the areas where we're still looking to grow is to increase, one, the number of drivers that we have. Also, again, the targeted recruitment of Spanish-speaking staff members in our department. So that's all I have. I will turn it over to, I'll go next slide, please. All right, recruitment.
I'm back. In regards to recruitment, we continue to maintain and strengthen strategic partnerships to support recruitment efforts. These include North Carolina Central University, who is one of our primary partnerships, Duke's Master of Arts and Teaching Program. We've been working with them since 2007, and so they provide teachers for us every year. UNC-based Teacher Pipeline, Durham Technical Community College, all of our student teacher programs, NC Works, the Durham Housing Authority, Duke Teach House, and several international teacher agencies, including Global Teacher Partners, participate in EPI. We're also focused on strengthening our partnership with CCTI. Right now, we have 32 seats that we work with them every single year with the EPP program. As a next step, we are proposing the addition of an international teacher coordinator, and this role will provide targeted mentoring and professional support for international teachers as they transition into Durham Public Schools. The coordinator will support instructional practice, classroom management, and curriculum alignment, while also assisting with cultural acclimation and serving as a bridge between teachers, schools, and the community. This position will play a critical role in strengthening retention, promoting equity, and supporting student success. Okay, next slide. Retention remains a priority across the district. Each month, we recognize a teacher and a staff member from every school and department with selections aligned to district goals and values. Notably, 94% of last year's recognized employees remain with Durham Public Schools. We continue to support retention through initiatives such as the Manager in Training Program and the implementation of Master's Pay. Additionally, our beginning teacher support structures remain strong, and Dr. I will provide further details on those efforts. We are also evolving our recognition practices by transitioning from traditional Teacher of the Year dinner to a more inclusive celebration that honors all of the year recipients across the district called Sparky's Award, which will take place on May the 7th. Next slide. And that's just a slide showing all of our teacher and employee of the months from last year, and the one that's not highlighted is the one person that was promoted to another position who's no longer in the district. Next slide. Career development. The implementation of Master's Pay in October of 2024 represent an important step in supporting career growth and compensation. While it is still early to fully measure its impact on retention, we are closely monitoring outcomes. We continue to see relatively low vacancies in English learner positions. However, EC staffing remains complex. Compensation differentials of $3,500 a year for adapted EC teachers and $2,000 for general EC teachers are essential supports in retaining staff in these critical roles. Next slide, please. Okay. I can speak briefly on the SOMOS for the Dr. Cardoza was going to speak on that today, but I will speak on it briefly. SOMOS, we are DPS Latinx at a glance. It was founded in 2018. SOMOS DPS Latinx is a district-wide affinity group and professional learning network committed to providing Latino educators in Durham Public Schools with a safe space to connect, grow professionally, and collaborate on initiatives that support and empower the Latino community. What we offer: bilingual monthly meetings, celebrations, networking, and collaboration among schools, professional development opportunities, sharing of ideas and best practices, quarterly socials and celebrations, relocation and transition support for new Latino staff, mentoring, and participation in recruiting efforts. Is the information that was provided regarding SOMOS DPS Latinx at a glance. In addition, Durham Public Schools is committed to developing strong leadership pipelines. We provide comprehensive onboarding for new assistant principals and principals through monthly professional development sessions led by various departments, ensuring leaders have a clear understanding of district protocols and expectations. Additionally, our Assistant Principal Leadership Academy, APLA, equips aspiring leaders with tools and professional learning needed to become effective principals. As we look ahead, we continue to expand professional development and conference opportunities for administrators while intentionally preparing assistant principals for principal roles, ensuring we retain and grow exemplary leadership within our district. Next slide. All right, Ms. Phillips.
Good evening. For compensation, you have all been very involved in the development of the budget, so I think you're a little familiar, and have received updates on employee compensation. While we are getting feedback from stakeholders, we want to develop a regular cadence of communication with employees outside of board meetings. Therefore, our next steps will include sharing updates with employees and clearly defining and updating job descriptions. Next slide, please. New teacher support.
Good evening, Dr. Lewis, DPS Board of Education, DPS staff, and our community that is viewing online. I'll be presenting on the work happening with both new teacher support initiatives and affinity spaces. We are strengthening support for our beginning teachers through a comprehensive onboarding and development experience that includes new teacher orientation with 2 days of district-level learning and 1 day at the school level, along with ongoing quarterly and on-demand professional learning. We are also providing targeted training for school leaders to better support alternatively licensed teachers, and we're in the process of piloting and implementing a differentiated tiered mentoring model, which is supported by a full-release district mentor structure serving all schools. This work is enhanced through aligned instructional support focused on district priorities like depth of knowledge, DOK, and explicit teaching, ongoing personalized professional learning opportunities for teachers, and strong university and community partnerships, which you've heard about. What's working well is the strength of our full-release district mentor model, the alignment of instructional and social-emotional support in alignment with our district priorities, and the flexibility of professional learning that is tailored to teacher and school needs. Our partnerships continue to help to expand the capacity and reach of our intended audiences more effectively and efficiently. However, we do recognize the need for improvement in ensuring consistent onboarding practices across all schools and departments and improving communication between HR and the program when new teachers are hired. We are also in need of stronger and even redesigned implementation of the current school-based mentor model and better alignment across mentoring and licensure systems, particularly in supporting alternatively licensed teachers from start to end. Next steps include redesigning and restructuring a standardized onboarding program district-wide, strengthening communication systems and structures between HR and the program, enhancing school leadership training, and ensuring consistent and ongoing mentoring support at the school level. Next slide, please. And so a little bit about affinity spaces. And so developing and supporting affinity groups and spaces for historically marginalized and underrepresented students and staff continue to be at the core of this work, previously by leveraging community partnerships, offering professional learning, and supporting initiatives such as Somos DPS, Latinx, and beginning teacher affinity spaces. Across the district, groups including international teacher ad hoc meetups and new teacher leader groups are helping to create spaces for connection and support for staff. Additionally, housing this work within a specified department or departments that has access to staff demographic data and funding will allow us to better align these efforts with recruitment and retention goals. It is important to note that this work has also been affected by the shifts that have happened and continue to happen across the social political landscape federally and locally. What's working is the engagement that we've seen and continue to see through external partnerships and existing groups, as well as early success in reaching targeted groups. These efforts provide a very strong foundation for expanding and deepening affinity-based support. Where there is room for growth, however, and improvement is in creating a more standardized, coordinated, and sustainable approach to these affinity spaces. This includes clearly identifying which additional affinity spaces and groups are needed, informed by various data sources and feedback, ensuring consistent support, funding structures, and professional learning opportunities. Developing a system to track participation and establishing metrics of success to measure impact across schools and the district are also opportunities for growth. Next steps include conducting a needs assessment, working with focus groups, establishing a system to monitor participation and outcomes, and forming a collaborative, multi-departmental committee to guide this work. Developing a practical re-engagement strategy that reflects the current landscape and ensures these efforts remain responsive, inclusive, and aligned to district priorities is also a few next steps for this particular strategic plan strategy. So I'm going to turn things back over to, next slide, please. Ms. Phillips, thank you.
Hello again. For staff wellness, we are promoting the Employee Assistance Program, which is now All One Health, and encouraging employees to take advantage of this service that is already paid for. One area that we know we want to improve on would be using restorative practices with employees. A series of next steps will be leveraging existing partnerships to bring services to employees, such as friendly walking competitions and SEL services. Next slide, please. Staff interviews. When we look at the teacher working conditions and the employee engagement surveys, we see that 88.6% of our teaching staff and 81.6% of our classified staff agree that DPS is a good place to work and learn. In some schools and departments, supervisors often have conversations with staff who are thinking of resigning, and they end up staying instead. One way for us to improve is to work with some of the platforms that we have in place to create and conduct stay interviews and determine what needs to be done in order to keep employees in DPS. Next slide, please. Here you have the scores we've given ourselves on these first few. Next slide, please. Did it change? There we go. Okay. Ms. Hayes?
So as you can see the pie chart, but we'll go to the next slide so you can see the actual breakdown. So when we looked at the workforce composition, where we are as far as demographics in the district, our numbers have definitely increased for our Hispanic Latino. For total employees of 5,350, and this was taken from March 26. 10% of our entire workforce, we have Hispanic Latinx, 41% would be African American, 32% would be white, and 15% would be other non-specified. Keep to the next slide, please. And so then we looked at the teacher workforce development, as you can see the pie chart, and we'll go to the next slide. And so out of the 541 employees that we have who identify as Latinx, 162 are teachers, and 51% of the 162 are international teachers. So we have 7% of our teachers are Hispanic out of the 2,380. 44% are African American, and out of that 44%, we did pull 10%, which are African American male. So there's 238 African American male teachers. White teachers, we have 44.7%, and others not specified is 4.4%. Next slide. Questions and discussions.
Thank you so much to the team for the robust presentation this evening. Really appreciate all of your time. With that, board members, do you have any questions or comments for team members? Yes, Ms. Harold-Goff.
Thank you for the presentation. When I was looking through the slides and listening to the presentation, one thing that I wanted to lift up was the appreciation on the emphasis on continuous and meaningful professional learning as a strategy for staff retention. Often when we think about professional development, we only look at it through the lens of instructional improvement and things of that nature. So thank you for emphasizing that professional learning is a collective strategy that includes coaching and peer learning and leadership pathways, with a goal of educators feeling supported and able to grow within Durham Public Schools. I feel that our professionals have to feel that the training um, is relevant to their professional experience. So I wanted to say that out loud because I remember being in the classroom, and a lot of times, and you still hear this, a lot of times, there's agreement about the fact that we want to have professional learning, but we also want that professional learning to feel relevant in our, to what it is that we're doing professionally. So
Absolutely.
I know sometimes there's things that are required and those kinds of, as we're thinking about that, when it feels relevant, then that's kind of what builds the culture, um, gives you ownership of what it is that you're doing and those kinds of things. So I was just wanted to lift that up. And then the other thing that was really of interest to me was this concept of the affinity spaces. I've never heard it said like that, but but I understand what that is. Um, and I wanted to, just give some support to that concept and to say that there's an autonomy that I feel that those kinds of spaces need. I heard, all the structure that you want to put around it, but sometimes, it sounded like to me an affinity space is a space to build community and support within yourself. And so a lot of times these affinity spaces, there is an autonomy, if you can, if we can support the autonomy and allow the community it's geared for to decide what those spaces need to be and then support them in that, I think that they would be even more successful. Sometimes it's hard to, I've, again, as a teacher using myself, there were times when they would try to, we want to get all the Black teachers together, but then the space didn't feel like our own. We didn't have the autonomy to make the space what we needed it to be. And so they had a hard time getting people to come. And so as we're exploring this, I just think we should also consider what it means for those groups to feel like they have autonomy and that those spaces belong to them and that they're able to create the culture that needs to be in those spaces. And I think the only question I had was, we were talking about, what does on-demand professional learning look like for new educators? I was curious about what does that look like? You said on demand. I want this, I'm wondering what does that look like? And I also wanted to know, does that kind of support extend to our experienced could it extend to our experienced educational professionals as well?
Yes. So I'm going to answer the first part of your question. So on demand refers to, as we have our new educators coming in after NTO, we have a PO catalog based on feedback that we've received, needs assessments that we've conducted before in terms of what is it that is most pressing, in terms of what new educators will need within like their first 6 months or their first year of teaching. And so a catalog has been built out within the program to provide those as needed. We have our BT quarterlies, which are held every quarter. And so our BTs are invited to participate in those learning opportunities with their mentors. And so those are customized based on feedback that's received by our BTs, shared with our mentors, and we design them based on needs. So on demand in that essence. And in terms of those opportunities being available to other staff, absolutely. We offer those learning opportunities more at the school level. And then during our district-wide teacher work days, those opportunities are also made available and in alignment with other district priorities. So depending on the work day, we try to make sure that our program offers professional learning that aligns with that as well.
Ooh, are there those kinds of on-demand options for our specialists as well, like our music teachers, our art teachers, all who are not teaching like the basic core curriculum?
Yes, so during district-wide professional learning days, there are opportunities for all district staff, for teachers, classroom teachers, including media specialists, music, arts. There's learning available for them as well. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Tab.
Thank you for Thank you very much. Not going to be long, very brief with this. Just wanted to highlight everything that you just presented to us. We could ask questions about all of this and just give you a round of applause for outlining this whole presentation. But I do want to uplift what Ms. Board Member Joy Harold Goff has said about the affinity, because that's what I was going to speak on, but she has articulated it very well. So ditto what she said about that, and thank you for highlighting those underprivileged or underrepresented populations and marginalized students. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for lifting that up. The professional learning that was mentioned during that portion is referring to how to structure and create affinity spaces that speak to exactly what you were saying, is how do we maximize and promote autonomy within school spaces. So a lot of professional learning is based on that piece. So thank you for lifting that up.
Board Member Byer. I want to thank you and thank the team for building a presentation. And I know there's been turnover in some of the team members, and I know that there is a commitment to this priority through and through. Because I do think this is just such a critical priority: recruit, support, and retain exemplary staff, right? And so I'm hoping that this might be for a future board to look back at this, halfway through next year, because it's so critical as y'all continue to build strategies, bring new people on to really address this critical work, especially as we know that a lot of our EC teachers do not have background in professional, classroom educator training. I wonder if later y'all could provide us actually a trend data on goal 3A, the actual teacher turnover rates for the last 5 or 10 years, right? And as we look at those trends together with you all and monitor them, that I didn't see within the presentation, and maybe I missed it. But again, our goal is to decrease the turnover rate of all DPS employees by 5%. But with a focus on teachers, IAs, and bus drivers. So that might be an interesting data point to look at, and I'm sure your team is working towards that, but I don't know that I've seen it in a while. Same thing with 3B, increasing the fill rate of DPS positions by at least 5%. I think even when our data is bad, we got to be transparent about how we're doing, and that might be great to share. I feel like 3C, you shared some really robust data about the work we've done over this, both strategic plan version 1 of this and the second version that is going to take us till 2028 on the increase in Hispanic and Black educators or staff in general. But the data is alarming to me that we really haven't done as well as we wish in recruiting Hispanic and Latino teachers, educators, right? That number is, let me scroll through and remind myself of, how is it? 7. What? Administrators is 7? Yeah. That is another critical point. So the notion of having 541 Hispanic or Latino employees is incredible, and that diversity is so critical in a district which serves a third Hispanic and Latino students. But when we get to teachers, we've got less than 7%. And I know we're competing with everyone in the state. I think we've got critical work to do. 162, I wish we had more, and I know y'all do too. I wish we had more African-American male teachers, including the retirees that are here and joining this board. 238, like, profoundly as we serve, and y'all know that makes such a difference, especially in elementary school when kids are first encountering. So I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I dream of like this plan being even more robust under y'all's leadership and direction. I dream of having funding to put back the teacher to TA to teacher program that I didn't know we cut. That one bugs me and is causing me to lose sleep. I think we had great things with the DREAM program that Ms. Chavez worked for previously. And I know that funding is impossible, and yet we've got to figure out ways to continue doing locally what our students need. And so I trust that as y'all bring future updates with future boards, that y'all will continue to push this envelope on behalf of our students. And I don't think I really asked you any robust questions. I'm just like dreaming for you all. And I'm seeing head nods, which means I think you share that dream. I think we should do better at stay interviews. I think rather than just exit interviews. I don't want them gone out the door. This is a glorious place to work. It is a hard place and a challenging place to work, but it is beloved, beautiful Durham work. And so I look forward to y'all, and I will be cheering you on all of this priority 3. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to know, I think, Ms. Smith, you were giving me a time flag a few minutes ago. Does that mean we are at time for this item? We're over time. So if remaining board members could keep their comments brief-ish, but please feel free to share. Who's next? Ms. Chavez. And then Chair Umstead.
Thank you. You all are clearly doing a lot of work to a lot of different strategies all at the same time. I appreciate the robust presentation. And so I just want to add, these are mostly comments. I would just like to also see where we are on the metrics, and I didn't ask for that ahead of time. So if we could just have that as a follow-up, that would be great. And then also, thank you for the information about EC and ESL teachers as we try to figure out, what effect our supplements have had. I think the information was more on recruitment, but if I would also ask if we could have more, like maybe by the end of the year, specific information about the retention of those educators as well. I think other board members would be interested in that to see how many have stayed. We know that we have high EC vacancies, but has the supplement had any effect at all? We hear anecdotally about things, but that data would just be really great to see. Not just how many positions are filled, but like how many people are staying, and is it more consistent than it was prior to the supplement? So, do we need to do a thumbs up on that to see other board members feel if that is information? I know we've discussed it in the past, but.
I think what you're asking for is for them to try to work towards measuring the impact of some of the decisions that we've made. And you were isolating the EC and ESL differentials, but I think the local master's pay or transportation, like there's a number of different things that the district has put into place. So I'm interested in that being like becoming part of how things work here in the district. And I think we're moving towards that, measuring the impact of what we've done. But I don't know how other board members feel about asking for something specific today versus providing some guidance for future. Yes, Ms. Harrelgoff.
My thought process was that I know that the way the presentations have been coming has changed significantly, and I really like the direction of where it's going. I'd like to see, like, these questions come up a lot. If that could just be added somehow to the presentation, like in the future, we can decide on which metrics we specifically would like to follow. And then, but before we even get to that point, if there could be a section in the presentation with said metrics, just in a place where we can say, these are the things that we're following, this is what the trends are looking like now. And if it could start coming to us in these kinds of presentations, that's what I would like to see. And then in the future, I would love to talk about, what metrics specifically for each one of our strategic plan priorities, which metrics are we intentionally following and for what season? And I think that could help guide some of that. So.
Thank you. Other thoughts on that specifically? Yes, Chair Umstead.
So I think this is a both yes and. Each one of our priorities do have goals listed in there, which are the metrics. I think including making sure that goal metric data is in each of these presentations would be helpful as we're moving in each one. And I think also trend data. So this is a 5-year strategic plan. Where do we 2003 to 4 to 5 to 6? So we can also see where we're growing or not growing and stagnant. Because I think the strategy work is really helpful, but we're hoping that the strategies lead us to the increased data work. And I think to Ms. Chavez's point, I'm also interested in that data. And I think it's a shift for when we start a new initiative, how are we monitoring to make sure that we have effectiveness of that initiative? So that is specific to EC and master's pay in this presentation, but I think it is a bigger conversation around many of the things that we implement.
Thank you. It feels like there's an interest in this being something that we continue to move towards as a district, and in the data that the board receives has more regular, there's a number of things that have come out, but more regular reporting of data, but also with regards to these metrics here, that they be integrated into, that as the district is making decisions, there's active movement to be measuring the impact of those decisions. And this is one example of that, and that be reported to the board periodically. Does that accurately capture what folks are interested in? Right, as a part of the regular reporting on the strategic plan priorities, rather than a separate report out or piece of data? Or is there still some interest in a separate piece of data that's reported outside of strategic plan updates? Yes, Ms. Umstead.
I think for this one, I would like to see this data sooner. I would not like to wait until the next presentation for priority 3. So I'd be interested to know if we have met the metrics around the goals, as well as any information about retention for the EC, ESL, master's pay. I think I covered the ones that you just mentioned.
And master's pay and transportation.
And transportation
Yeah.
supplements. If any, and I think we have some information already on transportation, but if the board could receive that information before the next presentation.
Would, all right, so focusing on, I see some value in having some of these about the master's pay, transportation, EC, ESL, especially during budget season, as we might be forced to make some challenging decisions we will be forced to make challenging decisions in the coming months. So I wonder if we could learn from the team or from Dr. Lewis, I know it's early on in these initiatives, so is there data that can be shared with the board, and in what format would you prefer to share that data?
Yeah, it can. I just want to be crystal clear on what data. I know Chair Umstead mentioned bringing some data back before the next presentation. We can be crystal clear on, because I heard, supplement data, retention data, fill rate data. What is the data that we want to bring back before the next presentation and timeline in terms of when?
And I want to separate out, because I'm still going to get to more conversation about the goal data and the metrics there. I think that is an important piece of what the board needs to see more of, but I want to specifically think about here the EC, ESL differentials, transportation attendance, and local master's pay. Do folks have thoughts on what pieces of that data you'd like to see, or do we want to see if the chair can kind of gather information from this group and get that back to Dr. Lewis? Okay, I see Ms. Byers' hand up.
Yeah, I'd certainly trust the chair to do something like that. One thing that occurred to me was, if I'm a new teacher or a teacher in another county, do we even advertise that those supplements exist? How would I know and choose to come to Durham? Is that even known publicly? That might be like the front end of it, right? I mean, then there's the notion of tracking retention of specific folks, but is that even available to folks? Does somebody know how? I know we have folks internally that are already here, that were here when we voted, but like, as far as a tracking tool, is it?
Could someone respond to that? And also,
That, Ms. Hayes.
what that brings to mind is sometimes it takes a while for something to start like working, and part of that is communicating about it in advance, right? So you flag something that's really important that we'll need to consider about whether we pull something that we've put in place because it's like not working yet. So, okay, Ms. Hayes.
So regarding the differentials, we have not advertised that per se, but when I meet with teachers who are interested in EC, I do let them know, those who are interested in the adaptive, it is an additional $3,500 a year. And with the EC General, it's $2,000 a year. So when I'm going to career fairs and I'm talking to educators about going into the EC field, we do mention the extra differential pay for the adaptive curriculum as well as the EC General.
I think also maybe we can have some discussions about the potential of placing it on the job announcements, so when they're looking for specific job and click on EC teacher, they see that there. So I think it's a both and.
I wonder, what does the board think about an update being provided to us regarding what's been done to communicate about each of these different things, as well as any data that's available indicating, like any data that administration has been collecting to track whether something is working or how effective it might be? Would you all like to receive that, maybe via a report out, so that we have that? Yes, Ms. Chavez.
Yes, and just a suggestion for that. In terms of the retention, I'd be interested in something like the number of teachers or the percentage of maybe the total number of teachers for that area who stayed for 1 year, who stayed for 2 years with the supplement compared to that same type of data previous to the supplement. Now I leave it to you all to figure out if that really if you need to fine tune that or something like that. But that's kind of what I'm interested in. Did they stay for a whole year? Do more teachers stay for a whole year compared to teachers before? Did we have more just like leaving in February, or, if they got the EC supplement compared to before when they didn't?
So to my understanding, the original differential was for more retention. It was to keep our EC teachers here. It wasn't a part of the recruitment tool, but when I go out to universities, I do use it as a recruitment tool. But the initial differential was to retain people who were already in current positions.
Yeah, I think that was yes, yeah, I agree with that. But I'm all for using it as a recruitment.
Yeah.
I actually think it was because we had a lot of vacancies, so it was a retention tool, a recruitment tool as well. I do think there was both but yeah.
Okay. Where I'm leaning here in the conversation is having administration bring to the board, not necessarily a presentation, but could be a report out to us, like a document shared with us, that would be this information that we're asking for. But if it's not available yet, I'm also interested in, how do they intend to measure this moving forward? What are some ideas they have for how they might be tracking this? If there's not sufficient data right now, then how do they intend to measure it in next year, the following year, 5 years? And for us to be able to see that, so that we have some idea of what to expect moving forward. Are there other things that folks would want, or other preferences for how we receive this information or when it's received?
I don't think we've talked at all about when it's received. I don't know if there's a timeline from Dr. Lewis and staff, or if you want to send us an update that shares, here's the timeline we can provide for you all. I don't want to put you on the spot because I don't know how.
Put me on the spot because I want to be clear. So what I've heard was the EC, ESL differentials, master's pay, and transportation differential.
I think that
They're part 2. Okay.
And so for each of those, the how administration is tracking effectiveness or plans to, and how they're communicating about these different things. And I guess my vision was, like, in the coming weeks or so, we would receive this, so that we have this information as we're making decisions, maybe in the spring, or thinking through these issues in the spring. Does that feel too early? And again, recognizing if the data is not there, it's not there, and you let us know how you intend to measure it moving forward.
So an update over the next few weeks on this day.
Does that feel comfortable? And then if you need further guidance, then you can communicate with the chair, who can confer with board members about additional information that might be desired, or answer questions. Yes.
I don't know who you suggested.
Okay, Ms. Chavez.
I just want to say I most want to use the information to make budgetary decisions once we know what we're working with. So that's my interest in the immediate. But I just to finish my comments, I also want to say that I do think well, one, with goal 3C, I'm glad that we've increased Hispanic teachers. That is so needed, but I'm also concerned about the stability of that percentage. And because of the come and go nature of the visa situation. And it's not that I don't want people, I know that we have a lot of educators who they want to come for the time that they come, and they do want to return home, some of them to their home countries and through the global programs I'm talking about, because we know that about 50% of those Hispanic educators, teachers specifically, come through the international programs. And this is not to blame anybody, because this is many districts are using these programs, but I am concerned about the kind of stability of that percentage generally. So I just want to name that. And then also, I think that we need to have further conversation about the H-1B visas, which goes beyond this presentation, but I do want to have more conversation about how our decisions regarding the renewals or non-renewals of successful teachers, especially teachers who are exceptional, and thinking about our outcomes and all of that. So I just want to name that. I'm not against us bringing in the wonderful at all that we've brought in so many wonderful international teachers who have anybody with people with kids in DPS has stories of teachers who have touched their lives, who have come from other countries. But I am concerned about the stability of our populations.
Thank you. Before we move forward with additional comments, could I get a thumbs up if folks are okay with the plan to have administration report back to us in the next few weeks or so with the data that we discussed, with any clarity needed going through the board chair? Do you have thumbs up? Or if you'd like to propose something different, then
Is that enough time for them?
Yeah, we said an update, and so that update may be, we need more time on transportation or EC, yeah.
I just want to be clear before I do a thumbs up on something that don't work for you. Okay.
thank you, Ms. Harreldoff.
I'm a thumbs up on that. And what I was asking previous was that in the future, in the updates that are coming in the future, can there also be, even if they're unclear, whatever, can that be worked into the presentations moving forward? The metrics that, that we're following, and whatever trends are associated with that particular priority. I think that would make these presentations go over the top. That would be great.
Yes, we will make sure going forward. I will also say that we are looking at a product to also provide like a strategic plan or data dashboard that's available on our website for not only the board, but also for the public on all of these metrics.
And that the ones in the report, they don't necessarily have to have all of everything, but just like there's highlights of it, like what we're looking at, what we're following, what we're noticing in the data. Something that would help to tie all that together.
Thank you. Yes, and I think as Chair Umstead had referenced before, it's really great to see the strategic plan, like strategies presented on. That's really helpful for the board, and to see the progress made on those, but the idea being that those are tied then to the goals and to moving the outcomes and the goals. So I think I'm hearing from multiple board members that they also want to see goal metric report out. I'm interested in that as well, and wondering, it seems like this time of year we might not have that yet, but so does it make sense to have strategy updates mid-year and then early fall, end of year? What is the timeline when we can normally expect, not just this year, but moving forward, the priority 3 goal updates? And this would actually apply to all priorities in my mind, but for like the mid-year and then
Yeah, that's actually something we're working on in cabinet. We're actually looking at 26, 27 board work session in board meeting calendar to spell those out when those should come. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be just once a year. And so there may be some multiple, depending on the goal and in the strategic plan priority, maybe multiple checkpoints throughout the year. So.
And I think that was essentially what I was going to say is just remembering the board that we do have a process whereby at the end of the year, we provide a full accounting of data relative to the goals, but just a reminder that our strategic plan speaks to many different pieces of data, all of which come out at different times of the year, right? Which is why we kind of try to do a roundup at the end of the year. And in these presentations, we do try to identify the data that is available at the time of the actual presentation. And of course, that varies depending on what that particular data is. But we will continue to provide that final report at the end of the year that reflects, all of the data pieces that are available at that time. And as Dr. Lewis said, we've been working and trying to figure out when it makes sense to bring each report so that it is better aligned. They are better aligned to the availability of data that is related to those particular priorities in the course of the year.
That's a proposed item for our upcoming board retreat too.
Okay, thank you. So on this one, these goals will hear back on the priority 3 goals, end of year meeting June.
Isn't
Yes,
teacher
sir.
retention date out now for the past year? Doesn't that come out around March for DPI?
So for the State of the Teaching and Principal Dashboard for 2025, so the DPS had, so 2024, 2025, so we're looking at last year, DPS had a total of 2,346 teachers, and the attrition rate was at 17.2%. Which meant 404 teachers left, but we did recoup 97 out of those 404. So our recoupment rate was at 24%.
I think the question was, when is that data released at the state level?
Right. So it has been released. It was released in March.
Yeah, I just thank you for that, because I think we've had this presentation in March before, because that's when some of the official data gets out. So I just would like to see, I think there's a culmination at the end of the year, but I think there's some that we can also include as the year goes on. And even though it is 24, 25 data, we can use that, right? It's still informative. So I would like to see both in, maybe is what my ask is. And timeline wise, I want to, for the other data request around supplements and things, I just want to make sure y'all have enough time. So a report is good. But I think that we can include something like this. We already got it. The data is out there. Let's include it in a presentation because it's a part of our plan. It's part of the goals that we're measuring ourselves against.
Thank you. Other board members? Any comments on this presentation? Yes, Vice Chair Rogers.
I want to go back to our Grow Your Own program. The Grow Your Own program
yes,
and
sir.
conversations around the Grow Your Own. Particularly interested in the presentation says DPS has 4 IAs that are still in the program. Does that mean that DPS is still paying for that?
Yeah, so those are the last students that are in the program. So we no longer accept new participants in the TA to TP.
Okay. Because of the funding.
That's correct.
What was the previous funding source? Do you know?
Have to yield to Mr. Teeter.
Oh.
I think that program was funded by the Mackenzie Scott dollars, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Pittman, can you confirm that?
That's what I was going to suggest. I'd love to be able to verify it, but I do believe that I know there was a lot of funding that supported our teacher recruitment and retention through that grant. Yes.
Okay, so it's Mackenzie Scott funding. Thank you. So when that ran out, was the board asked to reallocate funds or request additional funding to support the program?
I'm not aware. I was just following a directive. So I was not aware of it going to the board. I was just given a directive.
Okay.
And I will add,
Jeter.
okay, it's on. Okay, yeah, and I'll add, so right at the, as those funds expired, right, the budget department and finance sort of made it clear to HR leadership at the time that it would need to, for that program to continue, it would need to operate sort of within their HR budget. When we went through the budget development cycle for 25-26, we did not receive an expansion request specific to the program from HR for that process, right? And so I know lots of people had their hands in that pot over time, and it's turned over, but just wanted to kind of be clear about that. And I think too, what we're hearing this evening, right, is that sounds like it's a priority for the board, for the administration to figure that out. And that's something that we can, as we're making decisions over the next couple of months for the year ahead, that's something that we can lift up and contemplate as a part of the upcoming budget.
Thank you. I think my question would be, okay, HR didn't make the expansion request. I get it. What other resources did HR look into to continue to pay for
So-
this plan? Go ahead.
So, because we did not have the budget to do it, I did reach out to the current TTAs who are interested in the TADTP or instructional assistants. And ECU has a program that offers a lot of financial aid assistance. And so I did share that information with all of the district IAs who were interested in the TADTP program. Because that's one of our partners as well.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful. Given that there's no funding, why is one of our strategies to expand the grow your own cohorts for other parts of the district and other departments?
So for example, with the MIT, the Manager in Training Program, that's another expansion that was through child nutrition. And I don't think there's a cost there. I think they just train their current assistant managers to become managers. The same thing with the transportation, just growing your own, working within transportation to grow their bus drivers to become, just to grow in their own program. But that was the TA to TP was a part of the Grow Your Own, but we have the MIT and other programs within the district that we're looking at the Grow Your Own.
Okay, that's helpful. Dr. Lewis, I think my questions for you now is, how do we get out of this cycle of where the board authorizes a thing and think the thing is continuing to happen, are advocating for and talking about, the things happening, and then they stop happening and are communicated with staff and families that they're not happening, but that communication doesn't come to the board and the board doesn't have the opportunity to weigh in on that expansion. And I think that speaks to what we were hearing in public comment about the visas tonight, because the board didn't change the policy. The policy hasn't changed. The request that the board made at the time hasn't changed or been modified. The practice has. Same thing with the TA to teacher program. The request and allocation from the board, the intent of the board hasn't changed, but the procedures have. And so how do we do better about when there is a need that it actually surfaces to the board? I think we saw the same thing with the aftercare increases being necessary. So how do we get out of that disconnect between what the board thinks is happening in terms of operations and administration asking for what is necessary to sustain the vision of the board?
I think there's a number of things there. One is, there's a lot of decisions that we have to make given our limited budget. And so to sustain a lot of things is just not realistic. And so I think, I don't want to call it a cycle, but I think what we can do is kind of have some discussions about what are the values of the board. You know, what are, so in other words, what are some things that this board has said, okay, this is what we value as a board. Find a way, if there's a funding gap, find a way to ensure that this happens. And if it doesn't happen, then we can have some conversations about what's that notification to the board that, okay, we're coming up with this funding gap, coming up to this funding gap or this cliff, and we may have to cut X program. What is the board's thought on, you know, finding additional funding, or is it okay to continue down that path of canceling that program? So I think by continued communication and the weekly updates or doing one-on-ones, I think that's an opportunity to continue those conversations.
Any other comments? Yes, Ms. Umstead and then Ms. Chavez.
Want to add to Ms. Rogers or expand maybe. I think part of my thinking too is that how are we making decisions about what we continue and what we don't continue? And so, Mr. Teeter, to your point, like I would love to keep the TA to teacher program, but if it's actually not a great retention and recruitment tool, then we shouldn't keep it. And I just don't know. I don't know the data process or what kind of went behind those decisions. And I don't know that the board will ever get all of those, right? Because a lot of that is within your wheelhouse. But I think for us, especially for things that we are out in community talking about, how do we make sure that communication happens to us, but also helping us understand how decisions are made? What is the information that goes into making those decisions and those calls? When something like a grant is going to end, because we know when it will end. What is our planning process for either supplementing that internally or saying we're going to end this program because we don't see the effectiveness of it and we're doing something else, right? So some of this, I think, is kind of the bigger picture strategic things that we got to think through and be a little more, and I understand we've got a lot of turnover and change happening, so I don't say that to point the finger, but I think the planning process for the future has got to be a little bit more strategic thinking on that.
Yeah, and I think that's just it, you know, coming to the board and saying whether that's, you know, through one-on-ones, through weekly updates, through here at this board table that, yes, we lost this grant, but this program is so effective and has a huge impact on our students, on our staff. Boy, we are bringing this proposal to, for the board to approve additional funding to continue this program. Similarly, to your point, if there's a program that's not effective, whether it was grant funded or other identified dollars, well, not grant funded because it's written in the grant, but if there's other programs that we know are not effective, we're coming to the board and saying, okay, we know this community has seen this program or initiative in existence. It's just not working for us. And so we are informing the board that we will no longer program going. I think it boils down to communication.
I had other questions about the presentation that I hadn't given. I want to just also appreciate while we don't have it, here's a place that can provide you with financial aid. Please get enrolled because there still is a pathway for folks to become teachers in our program. So I appreciate that. And glad that we've got some people that are going to be able to finish that out. I also want to just uplift a lot of the things that have already been said. A couple of data points that I might be interested in is breakdown of educator demographics by school. I'm impressed that we've grown in some ways, but I'm also very curious to know by school in elementary, middle, and high school what those trends look like. I think while we made a lot of progress, I'm sure there's some folks that will say, well, my school looks this way. And so I want to think about what does that intentionality look like. Some of the other points that I've written down for notes have already been lifted up around decisions the board may or may not made. But I think it's really important about what we shared earlier around data. This is such a huge priority. And so I'm really grateful for all the work that y'all have put into it. I know you've been doing this on a short staff, so I appreciate that. And know that we collectively, because retention and recruitment is not a HR job, it's everyone's job. It's every supervisor's job. It's every school principal's job. And so how are we continue to invest in our folks so they can continue to invest in people that we keep here. So thank you all.
Anyone else before yes, Ms. Chavez.
I just want to go back to with the TA to teacher program. I think part of it is understanding the how we're making data driven decisions. And so what is the ROI on these things? And what, why are we keeping them, or why are we letting them go based on actual data? I think it's similar with the decisions around visas and the H-1B program. What are the outcomes? So that's what I think when we're talking about the teacher program, all these programs, just how are we making those decisions based on data? And it would be great to see some of that data to understand if we are pulling back and we're not funding things, why? We would want to see evidence that it wasn't working, it wasn't effective.
Yes, Ms. Byer.
Is it today or in the future that we can have for the community an update on the J-1 visa, the H-1B, in ways that they can have more clarity rather? I know we've seen some memos and written things, but I think that would be helpful to the community in general. One thing that I've learned, I think, and then let me not get it wrong, but that a J-1 visa is a cultural exchange visa
Correct,
with 3 years starting,
correct. With a
renewable for 1 or 2 more.
2 years, 3 years
One-
with a 2-year extension. There's
Yep.
no extra charge or fee.
But participants and folks that choose to come on that J-1 visa are informed ahead of time that it is a cultural exchange. Help me understand that they sign things that give them that awareness as well.
Right, so all the agencies that I work with, they are very clear about, once they come, they are really not supposed to have conversations about other type of visas because they are under their contract. So the J1s, they come for 3 years and then they are given a 2-year extension. So their total time here is 5 years. Now, after they finish their J1, they could go back, return to their country for 2 years, and they can apply for another J1. So they can return after 2 years going back home.
And if I can just jump in here, because I do think it's an important point to make and make sure that folks understand. There seems to be this impression that standard practice was to have these additional visas, right? And we have somehow shifted our standard practice. When the reality is, standard practice is that those folks who come over through these programs come over, stay the initial 3 years, sometimes extend those additional 2 years, and then go back to their homes. That is the standard practice. That is the agreement that those folks come to these programs on. And I think in some time ago, as a response to some challenges we were having with identifying staff through the pandemic, there were some exceptions made to that process. And those folks who had additional visas applied for were in fact an exception, not the rule. And I do think it's important to be clear that we have not changed any policy. We have actually just operated within the standard practice that has always been the standard practice as it relates to this conversation in terms of how this visa process works. I think the point that Michelle Ms. Hayes was making that is very clear, is that there is absolute clarity at the point at which folks agree to participate in this process about what the amount of time they are entitled to be here is, what the process is to extend that time, and what the expectation should be at the end of that process. And so I certainly recognize that becomes difficult for folks when they come over and put down some roots and become a part of a community. But I do think it's important to note that we aren't pulling the rug out from under folks. We are actually simply aligning our practice with what the agreements that those folks came into this program under from the very beginning of their processing here.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, you know, that this is a topic that I care deeply about as well. And I do think that as we are thinking about, as we continue to move towards, I appreciate in the presentation, all of the work being done to support international educators. There were a number of different places where that showed up in your presentation today. You all are enhancing your support. I think that's tremendous. And we are expanding the number of international teachers we have in our district right now because we're expanding the global languages program, we're expanding the dual immersion program, we're expanding the IB program, and we continue to have teacher shortages, right? So we have over 300 international
We have
educators.
290 J1s,
Right.
and we have 19 H1Bs.
Right, so over 300 total. So I think I'm look forward to continuing to think creatively about where it might be possible for exceptional educators who've built exceptional communities who want to stay, for us to think about ways to find pathways for that, even with all that you all have identified this evening as the expectations that have been set, and those things still exist. We have educator shortages. We're expanding programs that rely on, and not nearly even all of our international educators are teaching in any of those things I named, right? We have those teaching math and teaching English, ESL, and we rely on them deeply in our schools. So I do think, as with everything else we do, let's keep thinking outside the box and see where we can go and make sure that the decisions being made align with the values of the board and what the district needs. So. Yes, Ms. Harold.
I just wanted to say this is absolutely a retention, retention issue. If an international teacher is choosing, who is looking for options to stay and wants to stay, and we're not giving them the option, that's opening the door. They're going to charter schools. The charter schools are giving them the option to stay. So I am curious what that looks like equitably. I'm also curious about the exemptions, like, have there been exemptions made in the past? How do we have H1Bs now? There's a lot of questions that I have. We don't have to go into it now, but I would like Ms. Chavez said earlier, I would like to have this conversation more deeply in a future board meeting.
Are we ready to move on to our next agenda item? Right. Okay, any other comments from administration before we move to the next? All right, thank you so much, everybody who's come to present tonight and for answering all of our questions and for all of the work that you do to recruit and retain our amazing staff here in Durham Public Schools. So thank you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the 2026 School Library Month proclamation. Welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair Umstead, members of the board, Dr. Lewis, and the DPS community. I'm Gabby Hall, Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction. I'm joined this evening by Ms. Heidi Perez, our DPS Media Lead, Literacy School Support Specialist, and Coordinator of our district's Battle of the Books competition. We are truly honored to take a moment to recognize our media coordinators and the essential role they play in advancing literacy and supporting student learning across our schools during School Library Month here in April. Their work has a meaningful and lasting impact, and we are grateful for the opportunity to highlight their contributions. Thank you to the board for recognizing and celebrating the difference they make for our students and school communities. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Heidi Perez to share more about their work and impact.
Thank you. Good evening, board members, Chair Umstead, Superintendent Lewis, staff, and community members. I want to thank you for sharing this time and space to acknowledge the importance of library media centers as integral components of each of our schools. In our school libraries, staff and students collaborate and explore and synthesize information and stories with deep curricular connections and topics of individual interest. Our media coordinators develop and maintain diverse print and digital collections that ensure all students see themselves, their peers, and humanity in texts and sources from a rich mosaic of voices and perspectives. In our school libraries, a student from another country can read books about their native country and in their native language, and books to grow their English skills. In our school libraries, learning history can be done through biographies and research texts to gather a varied perspective of the facts. Through our school libraries, dual enrolled students and those on CTE completer pathways can access digital academic databases and texts specific to their coursework in health sciences or engineering, entrepreneurship, or other career fields. Here in Durham Public Schools, we are truly blessed with an administration and a board of education that knows the value of media coordinators and our school libraries. And you support them year after year. We are thankful. Chair Umstead, I yield to you and the members of the board to read the School Library Month proclamation.
Thank you so much for bringing this to us this evening. All right, board, would you like to go ahead and begin reading maybe with Mr. Tab? We'll move down the line.
Proclamation School Library Month, April 2026. Whereas the school library is to ensure that students and staff are effective consumers and creators of ideas and information as active participants in American democracy, and
Whereas the school librarian's role is to provide the leadership and expertise necessary to partner with the school principal to ensure that the school library is an integral part of the instructional program of the school, and
Whereas the Board of Education has entrusted the school librarian in each school to teach information literacy skills through traditional resources and new technologies, to provide literature appreciation activities, and to guide and encourage academic and recreational reading for every student, and
Whereas Lifelong Learning Agency begins and is systematically developed through the school library curriculum of the elementary and secondary schools, and
Whereas the school library contributes to the individual growth, development, and belonging of all students while fostering both excellence and equity in education, and
Whereas the school librarians of Durham Public Schools dedicate themselves to work for quality school library collections and programming that supports classroom instruction and welcomes, honors, and encourages all students, and
Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Durham Public Schools does hereby proclaim April 2026 as School Library Month and calls upon school administrators, teachers, students, and residents of Durham County to recognize and support this action and to participate throughout the month of April in the celebration of School Library Month.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So with that, I'll entertain a motion and then we could have some discussion if folks like.
I would move approval of the proclamation for School Library Month for April 2026.
second.
And then I had a little discussion.
Been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Chair Umstead to approve the proclamation for School Library Month of April 2026. Is there any discussion? Ms. Byer.
Thank you. I cannot come to School Library Month without thinking of our former colleague, Miss Omega Curtis Parker, who always reminded us of the critical role of media centers, media coordinators, school libraries, to students, every student, and to have the diversity of a collection that reflects the diversity of our community is so, so important. I wonder, in the data that we continue to ask for and we continue to look forward to, whether we could start to get circulation data by schools, number of volumes, and also whether we have staff vacancies in any of our librarian positions, because that has been a problem in the past, and I hope it isn't one currently. I visited a school today, and it was an early college, and then I did not see a library. I know it's temporary space, but I wonder what we do and if we have any schools that are missing actual dedicated libraries, and how y'all are circulating books to students in special schools like that. And so that was a curiosity I had, and it's probably because I was in a school today looking for libraries. So just going forward, I think that information might be helpful as we work on maintaining equity that this proclamation speaks to.
Absolutely. I can speak to the first part, and Ms. Perez can speak to the second part and the concern you brought up. That is data that we do track and we look at consistently. So it's something that we can definitely make sure you all have your eyes on really soon.
Yes, so there's really only one school that does not have access to what we consider a traditional library for lending for students, and that is DEX, Durham Early College of Health Sciences. And I think a lot of that is attributed to its location. Our comprehensive innovative high schools do have access to libraries for the ones that are on college campuses. They have access to the college library and also to our digital resources. City of Medicine does have a dedicated library, and Durham School of Technology shares with Hillside. So right now, DEX is the only one that doesn't have that. At Early College on NCCU campus, we have over the last 15 years worked on developing a lending library right in the department chair's classroom. It's cataloged just like all the other libraries through Destiny, and we track circulation that way.
The DEX was the one that I noticed, and that's helpful to know. I wonder if there's a plan, since they're probably going to be there another year or two, to get them some more robust collection, but I trust y'all to keep an eye on that. Thank you so much for that update.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Other board members? Yes, Vice Chair Rogers.
I want to say thank you all for bringing this resolution, but thank you to our educators, our media coordinators that are in that space. Desmond Tutu is oft attributed with saying that libraries are the sanctuary of truth. And at moments like this, we need our students to have access to the truth in a place where they can develop their critical thinking skills. They cannot do it without our media coordinators. So thank you all for your work and your service to students.
Yeah. With that, we have a motion on the floor to approve the proclamation in support of School Library Month, April 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you again so much for being here this evening, for all of the work that you do and all of the work of our amazing media coordinators and those that support our media centers, libraries, and our schools. Okay, the next item on the agenda is agenda item number 5, in Operation Services, the Magnet Transportation Proposal, and we welcome Mr. Anthony White here this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm happy to be here. My name is Anthony White. I am the Executive Director of Auxiliary Services for Durham Public Schools, and tonight I'm here to present a secondary magnet transportation proposal. Next slide, please. So to start off, this work is grounded in our strategic plan, Priority 5, more specifically Goal 5B, which states that by 2028, 90% of DPS students who ride district buses will have on-time arrival to and from school. Next slide, please. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to first start with the purpose. There are 4 things that I want to highlight. One is the standardization of our transportation services for our secondary magnet schools. Secondly, the increase of efficiency for our district-wide transportation services. Our increase of on-time arrival for our students at our schools. And lastly, our operational costs and savings. In this proposal, we are looking to transition our secondary magnet programs to an express transportation model. With this, we would utilize our DPS facilities as the express stops. Within this model, we have built-in flexibilities for our families who may be experiencing different hardships or different situations in their homes or lives or work balances. We have a plan to incorporate that. And our timeline is that we are proposing to move forward with express stops for Durham School of the Arts and Brogdon's DLI program beginning in 26-27 school year in August, and for the remainder of our secondary magnet programs at the beginning of the 27-28 school year. Next slide, please. So to get started, we're going to take a look at what we are doing now in Durham Public Schools. As we continue through the next few slides, I will highlight our existing magnet transportation practices in our schools. Next slide, please. So this slide here outlines our 4 specialty high schools. We have the City of Medicine Academy, Durham Early College of Health Sciences, J.D. Clement Early College, which is located on the campus of North Carolina Central University, and also Durham School of Technology. All of these schools operate on the specialty calendar. They service students in grades 9 through 12, and they are able to accept students all across Durham. But if you look at the last column, you'll see that there are differences in the level of transportation that each school receives. City of Medicine Academy and J.D. Clement Early College receive district-wide neighborhood stops. And I'm gonna pause right there to describe what district-wide neighborhood stops mean. In layman terms, door-to-door service where the bus will come to a family's neighborhood or street, and they're able to catch the bus there and be dropped off at their school. In this presentation, if you see express stops, the definition for that is that there is a centralized location where our students are asked to meet for their bus stop. And so when we talk about Durham Early College of Health Sciences, they have express stops at high schools. And Durham School of Technology also has express stops at high schools, but the caveat for Durham School of Technology is, as we just discussed, it's on the same campus as Hillside High School. So if we have students who live in the attendance zone for Hillside High School, they're still able to catch the bus with the typical neighborhood transportation model. So 4 schools, same calendar, same magnet type, 3 different modalities of transportation. Next slide, please. Next, I want to highlight the year-round middle schools. We have 2 year-round middle schools in Durham Public Schools, Rogers Hurd Middle School and also the School for Creative Studies. Both of these schools service schools within, service families within specific regions in our Growing Together plan. In Rogers Hurd, all the students within the lottery magnet, the lottery region for their magnet receive neighborhood stops. And at Creative Studies, students have neighborhood stops in the afternoons, but in the mornings they have express stops. So 2 schools, same calendar, servicing the same grades, 2 different modes of transportation. Durham School of the Arts is our only 612 comprehensive middle and high school, and all of the students receive district-wide neighborhood stops from all over Durham County. Next slide, please. This last slide here highlights all of our schools that are, they have a traditional neighborhood base, but they also have a magnet program attached to it. So the first school here is Brogdon. They have the DLI program. The next 2 schools on the list, Lakewood Montessori and Lucas Middle School, who transitioned to Montessori under the Growing Together plan. If you look at those 2 schools, outside of their attendance zone, Lakewood Montessori students can get neighborhood stops from anywhere within Durham. And students at Lucas who want to participate in Montessori would have to have, they currently have middle school express stops. So 2 different types of transportation for those 2 different, for the same program within the same district. Shepherd has the IB program. We pick up students from all over Durham with neighborhood stops. At Southern and Hillside, there is a magnet and also pathway where students have to go to their high schools outside of their attendance zone for transportation. So when we're looking at all of this, there was a lot of variation. And I think being in this position for 1 year, understanding where we were a year ago, one of the first things that I noticed that was glaring is that the variation causes a lot of confusion and people wondering why some programs get some things and some programs don't get those things. So next slide, please. Part of the proposal is to standardize our transportation practices where we would have district-wide express stops for all of our schools, all of our secondary magnet schools, excuse me. And for the schools that also have the attendance zone, we're still honoring that. So for instance, I'll speak to Brogdon, for example. They have the DLI program. All the students who live in Brogdon's attendance zone will still be able to receive the neighborhood stops. But if a student outside of Brogdon's attendance zone wanted to participate in the DLI program, they would receive express transportation. All right. Next slide, please. So next, I want to talk about our efficiency. Next slide. In this, the next few slides, we're going to talk about the rate of on-time arrival, reduction of route times, and also some of our operational costs that we are incurring. Next slide, please. A part of Priority 5, and more specifically 5B, is to look at the on-time arrival of our students at our schools. What I've done here, along with the team, is looked at Durham School of the Arts, picked a 5-day sample size, and this is from a few weeks ago. If you guys remember, it was a Friday, and then Monday we were out due to the impending inclement weather, and then the 4 days subsequent. These are the days that I looked at. If you look at this chart here, you'll see that like in blue, our on-time arrival percentage on that Friday the 13th was at 30%, and our on-time arrival in the afternoon was at 45%. I also want to take a moment to define what on-time percentage is. As a principal, we would like for all of our students to be in their classrooms, ready to learn when the bell starts. When the bell rings. And in order for this to happen, we need to have our students on campus on time. At DSA, the instruction starts at 8:30. So we define on time as 8:20. That would allow students to arrive on campus, possibly go get something to eat. If they have to stop by the office to turn in a form or stop by their locker, they still have time to do that and make it to class on time. In the afternoon, on-time percentage is, the on-time number metric is defined by 320. This speaks to when the principal is finished with the announcements and it's time to dismiss, are the buses outside ready to go, ready to receive our children. So just wanted to lift that up. So if you look at the percentages on the chart, we're looking at 30% on that Friday, that next Tuesday, 41%, that Wednesday, 52, 42, and 42. Obviously, far below where we would like to be at for a district. We are looking better in the afternoons, but mornings are definitely a struggle for us, as the data shows. Next slide, please. This graph here shows what the current Durham School of the Arts routes are. If you look at the map of Durham on the left, you will see I know it's kind of hard to read, but there are a lot of little triangles up there. All of these triangles represent a individual stop that our buses make to get our students to and from school. There are 563 total stops made daily to get our students to DSA, with a total ride time of 57 hours. Under our proposed plan, we are looking to reduce the number of stops from 563 to 71 and reduce the route time to approximately 20 hours, saving a lot of time for our students on the bus as they're riding. Next slide, please. Also, we wanted to look at the financial implications of this. When I ran this data, it was pre-war, and as we know, gas prices are not what they were before. So if you look at this chart, the price of diesel fuel, when I did the calculations, was at $3. I'm not sure if anybody drives a diesel vehicle or happens to look at what that number is when they go to the gas station now, but it is far more than $3. That's even our unleaded is more than that. This data is calculated at $3. If we did this for DSA on an annual basis, we would be looking at saving let's say $53,500. I did the math for what it would look like if this fuel cost went up to $4 or went up to $5, or right now, which we see $6. This number would increase by $18,000 per. So looking at if gas, when we have to lock in our gas rates for next year, if gas prices rise to $6, we're looking at over $100,000 that we would be saving on using this metric, utilizing the $6 per gallon. Again, we're not sure exactly where that's going to land at for us in this uncertain times right now. Next slide, please. These are the current routes for Rogers Hur Middle School. And again, it mirrors the chart that was that we outlined 2 slides ago. But currently there are 225 daily stops for Rogers Hur, totaling an amount of 23.5 hours under the secondary magnet express stop plan that will reduce down to 28 stops with a ride time of 7.2 hours. Next slide. Making these changes at Rogers Hur, again, with $3 a gallon gas, would save us a little over $25,000. Next slide, please. This is the current routes for City of Medicine Academy. Number of daily stops, I think it says 180. Yeah, 180. My eyes were messing with me over here. 180 daily stops with a current route time of nearly 30 hours, and the number of daily stops would reduce to 36, and the route time would be 8.5 hours. Next slide, please. If we were able to make this adjustment for City of Medicine Academy, this would save us over $30,000 annually. Next slide, please. The last school that we looked at is J.D. Clement Early College High School. Currently, they have 250 daily stops with 45.5 hours of ride time for our students. Under the proposal, we will reduce that number to 91 with a route time of 19 hours. Next slide, please. With a total savings of over $40,000. So, next slide. If we just look at those 4 schools, which we outlined, we're looking at over 100 hours of ride time savings for our students, almost $150,000 for fuel. Again, this is on the low end, depending on where we are as a country with gas prices. And we also would save money in contracted services that we provide for our students to arrive at school. Also, the number that you don't see is when we reduce the number of miles that we put on our buses, we also reduce the maintenance costs and the repair costs that we have for our vehicles, which will also save us a lot of labor hours and parts, and as they continue to rise as well with this plan. Next slide, please. A part of this proposal, working collaboratively with Principal Jones from Durham School of the Arts, we wanted to get some feedback from our parents about their perceptions of our transportation department and their and where they are with wanting to see some change with students arriving to school on time. So I had worked with Principal Jones to get a survey sent out to parents. We were able to get a nice number of responses. We have 432 responses to our survey. The first question was, how often does your student arrive at school on time when riding the DPS yellow bus. And for the survey responses, I'm looking more at the rarely and the never, which is slightly less than 50% of the survey respondents. So next slide, please. Next question was, how would you describe your overall experience with DPS bus transportation to DSA this year? Almost 17% said very negative, and about 31% said somewhat negative. All right, next slide, please. Next question, have transportation delays impacted your students' ability to arrive at school on time this year? Yes, frequently is at 53.2%, and yes, occasionally at 28.7%. So that is a large percentage of the respondents who stated that transportation delays had an impact. And lastly, the last question, next slide, please. The last question on the survey is that we wanted to let them know we were exploring an express stop transportation model where students would be dropped off at nearby DPS facilities. Would you be open to it utilizing an express stop model for transportation? So 16.7% say yes, and like I always say, nobody wants to get less than what they already received, so we understand that. But I was happy to see that 42%, nearly 42% said they would be open to it. They just needed to have a little bit more information on what it would look like and how it would work for their families. So I saw that as a positive as we are exploring this as a district. Next slide, please. Also, there are some additional implementation considerations that I would like to lift up. Next slide. We receive a lot of feedback from our community. As you all receive emails, the transportation department does as well. We also receive a lot of feedback from our schools, school leaders, and one of the things that we've been grappling with is the on-time arrival for our students at our high schools. I've had several conversations with high school principals, also Dr. Logan, about this issue and how it is impacting scheduling and students' ability to be able to access high-level courses at our high schools. When you look at this chart highlights the impact of our arrival times at DSA. So if you look at this chart, Riverside has 32% of their buses that come from DSA. Let's talk about what that means. We looked at the data from DSA, we saw that the buses were getting there late. So if the buses are getting to DSA late, a third of the buses that come from DSA have to go to Riverside. They're going to be late to Riverside, and we talk about a third of their student population that ride the bus, and that has a significant impact on their ability the school's ability to schedule classes, the students' access to, again, programming and student achievement in general. The same for Northern, a fourth of their buses come from DSA. So if they're late to DSA, they're also late to Northern, which has an impact on that school and those families as well. And we've received a lot of feedback from those communities as well, highlighting this problem. And again, just wanted to put that into a metric so we can see what that looks like for our schools. Southern, Jordan, and the other tier, we call them tier threes because they're in the third tier of transportation, they have an impact, but not as much as those two schools. So I wanted to make sure I lifted that up. Next slide, please. Next, we do have our electric buses. We have 2 in our fleet already, and we're looking to add another 30 over the course of the next year or so. With the electric buses, we would have to be very selective about the routes that we would use for our electric buses when we look at the range that they have. If we were still running these same routes, because of the length of the routes and the mileage that the buses can withstand with the current plan that we have in place for our routing, we would have to think about how we strategically place these buses in routes to make sure that they're not running out of power on the side of the road. And thinking about us adding these buses to our fleet, I want us to get ahead of this versus being reactive after we get the buses in the fleet. We want to make sure we have a system in place that allows for these buses to be fully operationalized here in Durham. Next slide, please. I think this is the last slide, but I wanted to make sure that I highlighted a few things. One, in this plan, it is just for secondary schools only. Does not have an impact on elementary schools. Secondly, if a student has an IEP and they receive transportation through their IEP, they will not be impacted by this. Students who, again, I'll say it again, if a student has transportation in their IEP, they receive transportation services, they would not be impacted by this. They will receive the same level of service as any other student at any other school in DPS. Families have the option to utilize express stops, and I like to use an example. If I am a parent and I live and I have a child that attends, let's say they attend DSA, I live by Parkwood Elementary, but I work on Hamlin Road, I would feel comfortable dropping my kid off closer to where my job is due to time. I can utilize Sandy Ridge Elementary School as my bus stop because that works best for my family. Let's say we have a family that lives in the South Point area, but a mom works downtown. We are able to utilize, let's say, C.C. Spalding or a school like that that's closer to the downtown region if that works best for families. Students would be assigned closer to their home, but we have a process in place for us to be able to work with families to change, to put an alternate stop in place. Lastly, we have worked with our team to kind of come up with an outline and a plan of action if we are able to move forward with this plan, beginning with some communication with the families of the schools that would be impacted first, which would be DSA and Brogdon. Spoken to those principals and already have a tentative plan in place to try to get in front of parents and answer any questions they may have. Also, partnering with the Office of Public Affairs to make sure that our messaging is getting out and families understand what's happening and how it impacts them. We definitely want to make sure we're doing that proactively. And a part of this work would be working with our school leaders to develop and outline maps of each school campus to identify what the bus stops would be, and also the specific waiting areas for parents if they elected to wait there, which we encourage, if possible, to wait with their students at the bus stop to ensure that they are able to get on the bus safely. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide, I misspoke. This is just a map of Durham, and this outlines all of our facilities all over Durham. I wish I could have got them all into one concise map, but it speaks to where the elementary schools are, middle schools are, and also our high schools, with the red star in the middle being where DSA is. So you can see where the school is and where a DPS facility may be in relation to a parent's address. So that's why this slide is present, so we can have a visual representation of where our proposed stops would be. And that, next slide, please. That concludes my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. White. Really appreciate that comprehensive presentation and all the work that has gone into putting this together. Board members, we had 30 minutes set aside on the agenda for this, which I don't know if that was supposed to account for the presentation time also, but let's make sure that we share what is important, but also try to keep remarks and questions and comments concise. And with that, anybody like to, all right, Mr. Tab.
Thank you. I agree with you, Chair. We will do just that. Mr. White, thank you so much for your presentation. I wonder, do you keep data on when a substitute driver drives the bus of the arrival times? Is that change, are you keeping up with that? Because that makes a difference about with the substitute driver and the arrival times and things like that.
Yes, sir. We do recognize that when we have a substitute driver on the bus, there are some inherent delays because the driver is unaware of the route and they sometimes are trying to make it through. We don't necessarily have a data set just for sub drivers, but if we have a bus that we are monitoring, we are able to look at our software to track the times of those buses if we needed to. We have the capability of doing it, but we don't have a running record of all sub-drivers and their arrival times. But that information can be developed.
Yeah, I think that's important, because that helps with retaining your drivers, or when new drivers are coming in, to show sometimes, hey, kids are getting to school late. We got to make sure that, you are familiar with your routes and things like that. So thank you for that. The pilot programs, you have 2 schools. And you're saying that this is going to help with of course, student achievement, which is the main thing, right? How are you going to assess whether or not the pilot program will continue to be or come to us for implementation for other schools the next year?
Great. Yes, great question. So yes, student achievement is at the core of all that everyone in this room does, and it definitely is leading the way here as well. So definitely want to highlight that. A couple metrics that we want to look at. One are, and we're looking at the on-time arrival rates for our tier 2 and tier 3 schools. So we'll be taking a closer look at those and monitoring them more frequently in the coming months. Also, we will be looking at the tier 3 implications of like that. There was a chart in the slideshow that spoke to where those buses from DSA go to. And kind of like we spoke about before, does that, looking at the arrival times for those schools and seeing if those trends are better. If we look at trend data from this year versus last year, are the buses arriving to campus on time for the schools following? And also just again, looking at DSA's data, being able to take a look and like run the data for the same week and same type of view, we would be able to do that as well as a monitoring source and keeping that data.
Mr. White, if I could add one other point, is that we want principals to be able to set their schedule based on what's best for the students in their school. We don't want principals having to develop a schedule based on when our bus is going to arrive to school. So if we give principals the flexibility of setting their schedules based on what's best for their kids, that they may have more kids who will take their core classes in the morning versus trying to put all of them in the afternoon. And so we want the principals to have that flexibility.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes, and thank you, Mr. White. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Byer.
I want to acknowledge that I wish we were in a place where we could continue door-to-door transit for every student in Durham. I want to wish that we had seen the fulfillment of the Leandro, a huge shock of a lost lawsuit on behalf of our children as we work to dream the schools and services that our families deserve. And I want to be clear that you all have been trying to bring this to us multiple times, and we, including I, have been reluctant to take this unpopular, difficult step. But I think that we are at that time to try this pilot, especially at Durham School of the Arts. I'm kind of looking for clarity. I'm not really comfortable moving beyond the pilot for DSA and the Brogdon DLI program. Would it be possible to peel those 2 pieces out and just have decision more rapidly on the 26-27 DSA and Brogdon while y'all learn from that pilot and then bring back the analysis on the other secondary magnet programs in the future?
Yes, we are able to do that. And also speaking to Mr. Tabb's point, we plan on looking at our data, having that data available and analyzing that data regularly to inform what we are doing and informing our practices as we look to try to incorporate more schools into this. Thank you.
And are you looking for action here today?
Yes.
That
The crises
It's
is
not on,
marked for
it's not on
action.
for a vote as
Got it.
far as that action, but maybe some consensus to move forward or questions to bring back, wonderings, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's helpful, but just to be clear, we are contemplating this for this fall. And that this is the first presentation and hopefully there'll be other.
That's why we wanted to have it as a work session.
Yep,
So the board
perfect.
can decide if there's additional data, questions, survey, information we need to bring back to get consensus to move forward.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other board members? Ms. Rogers?
Thanks for the presentation, for bringing it back. Feel a little differently than Ms. Byer. I think it's a necessary step. I think it's a step we need to take for the coming school year. I hear you saying the word pilot. I think that I would appreciate having the data again next year about how it's working, how efficient it is, etc. But I would like us to, as we move forward with the intent that this is expanding to all the specialty high schools as you've requested for the following year, so people know that at the time of enrollment. And if the board should roll it back at that time to going door to door, the board can do that. That would be helpful to families if the district can afford to do so and has the manpower and determines that this isn't working. But I would like us to be able to move forward with both and leave the option to change it back. So families aren't surprised when they, at the same time next year.
Thank you. Others want to weigh in on that, or did you have other remarks, Ms. Rogers, or no? Okay. Others want to weigh in on that piece? Ms. Chavez, oh, your thumbs up, okay, to what Ms. Rogers was saying. Okay, and also Ms. Harold Goff is, not everybody's spoken, but you're responding to that, Ms. Byer, okay?
So 100% I understand the need for families to know as soon as possible. And I do want future boards to be able to look implicitly at the Growing Together data about some of the secondary programs that are trying to build that might need the support of door-to-door transportation to get the strength of the program and the popularity of the program and to actually fulfill the equity goals of Growing Together. And so I could see some needs for further analysis as y'all move forward. That is my biggest wondering remember way back when Durham School of the Arts was growing and actually it needed nurturing more. I would love
I'm too young to remember that.
Exactly. I remember.
But
Anyway, that's my wondering on behalf of future boards and you all.
absolutely, I think we should continue to assess that and continue to be looking at those things. I don't think that goes away. I just think that it's easier to go back door to door after getting that assessment, getting an understanding of transportation at that point. But whatever the board decides, it's fine. But that's my thought.
Okay, so we have a couple of thumbs up, and from Mr. Tab as well, so 3 thumbs up. And then Ms. Umstead or Chair Umstead, did you want to share anything related to this before I weigh in?
This agenda topic, are you saying?
Well, I haven't heard how you feel about the moving forward with just the 2 that are pilot versus all of them. So if you could incorporate that into your remarks, that would be helpful for us to, but feel free to share whatever.
I was gonna share, I don't feel ready yet to make a call on that. I think I appreciate this presentation, and I think understanding how DSA is impacting the other high schools, which are also impacting thousands of other students getting to school or hundreds of other students getting to school on time is a really important factor. So I appreciate how you all have thought about this presentation. And I sit in a place that we need to make a difficult decision, and I'm also concerned about it. And here are some things that I'd want us to keep track of or consider. One, I don't love that this presentation is coming after the magnet window is closed. So if I'm a family and I've applied, y'all have heard me say this before. I applied thinking that a bus was coming to my home. And so now I've accepted my seat. I might have to be doing something different next year. And so I don't love that part. Understanding, there's some challenges there. I also recognize that Durham School of Arts, thinking about just that school, is one of the highly requested schools. And I would want us to be keeping track of data on who can go and who is declining a seat based on the lack of transportation. I'm sure at some point, while we have this kind of mismatch of all transportation proposals for schools, because Durham believes a lot in meeting people where they are, right? That equity focus. And so I just want to make sure that Durham School of the Arts still feels accessible to all of our families. And it doesn't become, oh, can't go because I don't have transportation. And we have a certain subset of families that are only opting into the school. And so I think I want to sit with it and hear some more from community members. I know this is for information today, but want to consider more about what this looks like for pilot. But I think I'm more interested in separating it out and have a decision earlier next school year so that showcase of schools, lottery applications, like all that information is publicized around the other schools. But I don't want to create a position where even in our application schools, families don't have access because of transportation. And I say that honoring that your team is working as hard as they can to try to get folks to school. So I think it's a difficult decision that needs to be made. That I'm grateful that we're not making it tonight, but I'm thinking about separating those two.
Yes, ma'am. I do want to highlight one thing, and I'm with you. I understand that angst about we signed up for a magnet program. There is some language in the magnet application process for families, and it says, I understand that placement at a magnet program or CTE pathway program for middle or high school may not have the same level of bus transportation service as attending my neighborhood assigned school. I understand that I may be responsible for transporting my child to an express bus stop as assigned assigned DPS location or my neighborhood assigned school to access school bus transportation. Just wanted to highlight that that was already there in our magnet application for all of our families. But thank you so much for that.
Mr. Barnes, did you have something? And then I see Ms. Harold Goff's hand.
Go first, I'm fine.
Okay, Ms. Harold Goff.
I just wanted to clarify too that I understood correctly. And I remember that language because I had kids in magnet programs and we went to creative studies and we had a express stop. Did I hear correctly that we're going to utilize all of our locations, and if a family is within their neighborhood, like their districted neighborhood, then they still have the option for door to door, but if they're going into a magnet situation and they're outside of that that neighborhood zone, then they can still attend, but they would have to do it through the express stop. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
So you are correct. I just want to add some clarity to that. So we have some of our schools, and I think it's Brogdon, Lakewood, Montessori, Lucas, Shepherd, Southern, Hillside. I may have been missing one more. I can go back and look at the presentation. All of these schools have an attendance zone, and they also have a magnet program. If a student resides inside of the attendance zone, they will still receive the neighborhood transportation as like any other student would. If a student wanted to attend the magnet program at those schools and they lived outside of the attendance zone, then they would receive the express stop transportation that we are speaking of this evening. Hope that it was that.
Yeah, so it's not like we are dismantling all of the neighborhood transportation. We're just helping the option and keeping that like contained, and then adding these other locations for people who are outside of that to give some ease on the.
Yes, I just do want to highlight this is only for our magnet program. So if a school, let's say Neal Middle School, Carrington Middle School, and I'm just showing some love to my middle school people. If like these schools don't have a magnet program per se, so they're their transportation would not change. They're unaffected by this. Just the schools that were highlighted in the presentation, which are our secondary magnet programs, those are the schools that would be impacted. And again, for those traditional schools with the magnet option, they will receive the neighborhood transportation and then the express outside of their zone. For the schools that have just district-wide magnet, such as JD Clement, CMA, they would have district-wide express stops only. They don't have, because they do not have a neighborhood zone for their schools.
And the district-wide express stops include all of our properties, like, so one, like, it could be an elementary school or a middle school.
Right.
That's, close to, okay.
Yes.
And, the last thing was, that I can stop is, there was conversation before about, supervision at these stops. So since they're on our properties, would that, how does that address those conversations they were having before about, would these express stops have supervision for youth who are there? If parents cannot stay, if they can't, they have to drop their kids off, or if the kid has to be there.
So that's a great question. So our express stops would operate the same as a bus stop at a neighborhood, let's say in, I don't know, like Summer Meadow in North Durham, or just any other neighborhood that we have where there's a bus stop. These parents would come, they would drop their kids off at the bus stop. We encourage parents to wait as they wait with their children. We understand that that doesn't happen the same way that it doesn't happen now. I think we all see students just waiting for the bus stop, waiting for the bus at the bus stop. That can still occur. The same thing that happens at a in the neighborhood, if something were to occur at a bus stop, the schools would investigate and deal with the incidents as they come. In our school properties, that would be the same. There are inherent safer measures at our schools. We have staff members there. I've already met with all of our elementary and high school principals about this, and most of our schools are being utilized as express stops anyway. So this is not anything new for them. They already have established places, and again, they have conversations with students and parents about what the protocols are or what to do. They all have different things that they do in their schools to communicate with the families, and I'll be working with them to get that standardized. But there's not like a dedicated DPS person who is outside to monitor students at express stops on our locations.
I just wanted to lift up again that I'm still for, like, looking at this together with the option of being able to revisit it with data from the first year. But giving that expectation for families to prepare, it feels like a jump ahead of having to do that prior to, next year's, magnet lottery. So I like having, as being as proactive about communication as we can. So I think that there's enough time, if we're thinking about it, let's go ahead and, pull off the Band-Aid and see what it's like. And then once we have some data, if we have to backtrack, it'll still be easier to do that. So I'm still in favor of looking at it that way.
Thank you. Other board members? Yes, Ms. Chavez.
Well, thank you. I think that we need to move forward with this. This is a strategy that you all have been bringing us for a while. I think we need to do it to move forward, or to deal with the lack of resources that we have in different ways, and also to have consistency across the district. My concern, of course, is around access, and so I also concur that data analysis will be important next year. I have one question that I, kind of raised in my questions that I sent in, but around the hardship appeal. If the appeal is successful for a family, then what happens? What do they get as a result of that?
I'm going to take one step back and kind of talk about the process, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So if a family has a hardship, or they would like to request a alternate stop, We do have a process for that. We do have an online form. If we're able to move forward, that form will be available online. Also, our schools will be armed with that information. They will also have paper copies with different ways for them to be able to get that information to us that's already prepared and ready to go if we're able to move forward. In that process, there's a 10-day turnaround time. What we would do is take it, again, every situation is different, so we will have to take a look at every situation with our team, go through that process, and then we will be able to communicate with families. It may be something that as we're working with families, it may be that there's a different stop or different things. And again, we really want to take a personalized approach with this and working with every family to try to figure out what works best, because we don't want to cut off access for our students to attend these programs. Also understanding that we have a program that, or a system that we're trying to keep integrity as we're putting in. And so understanding that for our families and understanding, like, we're trying to figure out how we can work best for with our families through this process. And again, we're going to take everything on an individual basis and not just wipe a broad stroke over everything and just say, no, we're not doing that. We want to take a look at everything and get back with our families and communicate with them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And people, families should know that. And so the school bus stop appeal request form is to request an alternative bus stop.
Yes.
Okay. But individual families would not be responsible necessarily for gathering up 4 other people or
No.
something like that. You're going to work with them. Okay.
Absolutely. Again, this is part of the individualized approach that we will be taking to this process, taking a look at stops, working with families, having some conversation, not just being a person behind the screen, just sending a blind emails, picking up the phone, having conversations with families and trying to figure out what we can do to work best together.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Anything else from other board members? Okay. I forgot, Mr. Barnes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think in the past, we've talked about the challenges at DSA now, but we've talked about when the new DSA is online and we're traveling from Chatham County to now Northern Durham, it's going to increase the probability of kids not being able to get to school on time. So if we're able to move forward with this proposal, then the data that we're going to collect this year is going to be valuable for us as we learn how to get the kids from the Chatham County line to DSA that's going to be located in Northern Durham. So this is also a good tool for us to use to figure out the best way to transport those kids without losing or without having families to think the DSA is not accessible to them because they live in Southwest Durham.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your leadership on this, Mr. White. This is, I know you've put a lot into this, and I think, of course, we would like to be able to provide bus transportation to and from people's houses for everybody, but our resources are not unlimited. We have a state that's starving our public schools of funding that we need. Frankly, fuel resources are not unlimited as well, right? We have environmental concerns to balance. So I think what gives me the most unease, and you've heard me say this before, but is the timing of this. That it's happening after people have accepted lottery seats. That said, that's where we are. But moving forward, I really would prefer to give folks more of a heads up. And so I'm in favor of going ahead and moving forward with the plan to implement so people have as much time as possible to plan. The other thing that gives me unease is the risk of making our magnet programs less accessible to our families that have less resources. And so I do want us to keep an eye on that. Things that make me feel better about this are the incredible amount of work you've done to make this as flexible as possible for people. So the ability to offer different express stops and for them to request ones that are closer to their work or closer to different things. That's incredible, and I think will make this less of a burden on folks. And also the hardship waiver process makes me feel more comfortable with this. So thank you. I I always like to see data, but I think that's going to be really important to track and keep tracking so that we know if those things that we're worried about are happening. And so I think in addition to the on-time arrival at school, I'm interested in the on-time or reasonable arrival back home or back to that express stop. I know you're tracking when people are leaving the schools, but we have problems now with kids on the bus for a long time in the afternoon. So if this can reduce that, I think that would help our families. Also, how much less fuel are we using, right? So how much money are we saving, but also that environmental impact, if we can keep track of that over time. And then whether we're pushing our lower resource students out of our magnet programs. We can track that through demographic changes in our magnets over time, applications, enrollment, things. So I think it'll be really important for y'all and this board to see that data. And then also just satisfaction, both from like the parent and the student level, but like at school administrator level too, satisfaction with transportation services, the idea being that all of these things improve over time when we don't see the negative stuff that we're worried about. Any other thoughts that come up for board members? Yes, Vice Chair Rogers.
Just want to make sure I understand this clearly. I thought I understood it because my kid attended a magnet school and I attended a magnet school. Magnet lotteries open or magnet lotteries closed. They're pulling, people accepting seats. In general, we don't get bus assignments until open house.
Right.
So people don't have any real expectation of where their bus stops are going to be yet. Maybe like similar to where they were last year, but we are making it clear
Right.
that it's not. And at that point, they can make their appeal. Okay, at this point, they now know that the board is considering express stops for the coming year. And they could opt to go to their base school in lieu of the magnet school now to avoid that. They could wait to attend open house and they can still request to go back to their base school.
So as far as enrollment is concerned, is my understanding, not my specialty, but my understanding that a student at a magnet school can opt to return to their neighborhood school at that point. Yes, I've seen,
Okay.
yes.
So they could also submit an appeal. The appeal could be approved or denied, and they could go back to their base school.
Up until the first day of school, they can return to their base.
Up until the first day of school.
Prefer not, because we stopped filling those magnet seats as of July 31st for traditional magnet calendar schools. So
So after the first day of school, they can't go back to their
they
base
can
school?
request an appeal to return.
They
but
can
we
request
try.
an appeal,
Right. But
a
we tried
transfer. So if they can't get to a bus stop after the first day of school because they're appealing the stop because they can't make it to that location. If they don't show up for the first 20 days, they're unenrolled anyway.
they would be put in for a return to their base if need.
I just want to make sure that I understand this process.
Yes.
Because what we don't want is for people to be disengaging with DPS over transportation. But we also need to be clear that there are multiple steps along the way that families have, multiple options that they have at this point, even still, in terms of attending their base school if they think transportation is going to be an issue. Is Fuller going to be a location?
So, a couple things. The last question first. No, Fuller will not be one of the stop locations. I would say that our team has been working feverishly. Was meeting with the team today, and we're ready to. I think maybe in the next couple weeks we would be able to kind of generate what stops would be if we're able to move forward with DSA. So when we start talking about communication and getting information out early and often, I think that's something that we are in a place to do. We've already been talking about it. We just want to be able to press the gas and be able to move forward with it. But yes, we would be available to give the information early. And we're talking about in the next month or so, we would be able to have a estimate. Again, nothing's finalized at this point, but we would be able to give families at least an estimate of what that would look like.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Byer.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that when we talked about this previously, like we looked at these maps, I'm looking at slide 17, the DSA um, expressing in, right? You said you could almost identify every dot on this or whatever triangle shapes these are on this map. And I think that kind of information as a next step for families to be able to see, oh, I am not far from Southwest Elementary. I could see, and there, maybe you could project, is this part of the projection? There will be 5 other students there, or 10, or whatever piece of my community is coming in towards this express stop. Is that the level of information that you could give to this board so that the public can see it before this board votes on that? Are we, because I think that kind of level of information of a draft, kind of where are these dots, would be super helpful as folks start to try to plan.
Aren't the
And
dots just the elementary, middle, and high school?
Yes, so if you're looking at slide 29, the dots were, so there are 3 different maps outlining where the location of each elementary school, middle school, and high school, with DSA being the red star that's in the middle where DSA is located. So
that one, I'm looking at 17.
17?
Yeah, with the crazy red, blue, green lines
Yeah.
of now, and then the express, like, what are, like, the stops that you have projected already that you're close to finalizing? Would you be able to provide that level of detail in draft form, knowing that it might change prior to a vote?
I'm hearing that. I just wanted to clarify really quickly. If families want to know where their nearest express stop is, that is their nearest elementary, middle, or high school, right? Whether or not there's going to be 5 or more students there is what you were referring to, if we.
I
or-
was not clear from your presentation earlier that all of these are existing schools.
if you look at the maps, let's say you're looking at slide 17, the
Yep.
map on the right are existing DPS locations. These are like, if you're looking at the map, the left with all of the lines are all of the neighborhood stops that we're currently making. And the map on the right are all those triangles that you see there are existing DPS locations. If families wanted to know where their express stop would be, I think the easiest thing is to think about where you are. You probably can go on like School Locator on our website, just type in your address to figure out what's your closest elementary, middle, or high school. Just kind of take a look at those things. You'll be able to kind of see what's closer. That does not absolutely 100% define where you would be, but that would at least give you an idea of the schools that are closest to you in geographic region. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Ms. Rogers.
All right, so that makes, so I hear what Ms. Byer is saying. You know how, I guess we don't do it for bus stops. I guess the question is, you know how there's the school locator resource? Is there some way for DSA families or the schools that are on this to, and people who are thinking about applying to magnet schools, to be able to put in an address and find out where an express bus stop is?
Okay. So in order for us to generate that, again, that's what I was kind of speaking to, where my team is ready to move forward with that. We would be able to simulate what all of the express stops for all of our students would be for next year. We don't necessarily, because we are in building mode, we don't have like every single stop for every single student laid out. You can kind of think about a school and like a radius around it and kind of looking at it, but it takes a little bit of a human eye on it as well, because not just because it's let's say a mile or 2 mile radius, that doesn't mean that it may not geographically work best. And so again, that's something that my team is ready to go. I told them to pause today. They were ready to go. I said, let's kind of see where we are. But we want to, like, if we're able to move forward, we will be able to generate all the stops for all of the students who are projected to be, well, who are currently at DSA, and then from there, any other students would kind of get an idea of, like, let's say I live in this neighborhood, look at other students who live in this area where their bus stop is, and so they can kind of see what that looks like. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question. So if you're that far along, is it possible to get that information
If
for
we-
us to say, yes, we're absolutely moving forward? And you know what I mean?
So if so we can get the information. I'm not saying we can't get the information. When we do it, there's a back end process working with Ms. Phillips and Mr. Harris, where they have to. It's a lot of technicalities behind the scene. We can go ahead and get that information if you guys would like to see a draft of what DSA is going to look like. We are able to provide that. I just have to work with the team and we can get that information.
Would that put people more at ease?
It would.
Colleagues, I think that's the.
I guess I'm curious to know, like, I want families to have that as soon as possible, and I think that will be useful for families. So I would like to know how that can get rolled out to families who are planning to go to those schools and when, but I don't know that, for me personally, I guess I don't see the value in having that before we decide to move forward on this. Like, that's not new information that I need, but I could see how a family would need it if they're deciding for next year and planning for next year.
If I could jump in, I was working with Principal Jones. If we're able to move forward, we were already kind of looking at a date that we can set where we can, me and the other members of the transportation team are able to schedule a time to go to DSA to answer some specific questions. We already kind of have a tentative date set. We didn't finalize anything because we kind of wanted to wait to see where we are. So again, as far as the team, we're ready to move forward and communicate with families about what things look like. Again, if we say that we're moving forward, we can get that data, have it real time, and have it there at DSA, ready to answer questions for families within a few weeks.
Other comments? And if not, I kind of wanted to just take a straw poll to see who's ready to move forward with this. Okay, can board members give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if they're ready to say, yes, move forward with implementation of DSA and Brogdon DLI? Express stops, planning, and communication? Okay, so I have 6 board members, yes. And then my next question is, are you ready to give the go-ahead for them to start rolling out the next phase of this, which will be implemented in the next school year, which is to all middle and high school magnets also?
With the caveat that the board could roll that back later.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
we'll have information before it happens.
Right, but for planning purposes, yeah.
And the question that I had asked him about making sure that
The data
the data is
is
there
there to
Right.
support it.
to support that.
Right, and that'll be my, yes, so I think the tentative go-ahead with the expectation that there's data being gathered and reported back to the board as this moves forward. How do we want to, are there thumbs up or thumbs down, or do people have other questions before they give a thumbs up or thumbs down to that? Yes, Ms. Byer?
I will add my other caveat in, I talked to a lovely student that, walks 20 minutes to her stop and she's a high schooler. That to me, on this secondary piece, I think the future board might want to start as much as possible with high school students before getting to middle school. And that's another point of like taking a little bit of time, seeing what you learn from this massive pilot that is Durham School of the Arts, which is express stopping nearly 700 students, something like that. And so giving y'all some time to nuance it a little bit, I still think is helpful. Because you might not have to do all the middle schools. You might be able to get the gains you're hoping for in efficiencies and on timeness. Is that a thing? With just doing the high schools rather than both middle and high. I don't know. And I fully know that DSA is a 612 school and that makes it extra challenging too.
Well, I think you all will be assessing this as you move forward, and you're not going to roll this out more than you need to, right? I think I want to give you the space to do what you need, but understand that you're making data-based decisions as you move forward.
Yes.
So that we don't hold you back, but I hear what you're saying, Ms. Byer, and I also, but I don't want to hinder your ability to to do this if it's necessary, if we can get a guarantee that you're, thinking about all these different things that have come up tonight as you're moving forward with this.
My guarantee is that I will be data focused. I will continue to take a deep dive into the data and be ready to report out whenever it is requested. It will be readily available because we're going to be looking at it and as a team very regularly. So any requests that we receive for data, you'll be able to have it because we're going to be looking at it. We don't want to make any blind decisions. We want to make data informed decisions, and also just making sure that we're keeping the students and student achievement first. So again, that data is something that we're going to be looking for.
Thank you. What others have questions or comments? I wanted to also flag that Principal Jones of DSA is here in case folks have specific questions for him about conversations he's had with families there already. Yes, Chair Umstead.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Jones. I don't have specific questions. I think the tricky part for me about 27, 28 and trying to make a data-driven decision when we won't have that data till the fall, which is a new board. And so just being frank about that is hard for me to make a decision about that when there's another group of people who need to wrestle with that in the fall. So I don't know if there's a date that we want to say, look, Q1, we look at this data, it's going to come to the board and the board makes that decision about 27, 28, because we are talking about making a data decision. And so I just want to uplift that. I think we've been clear about what we need to move forward with for 26, 27, 27, 28 just feels like might need to be a different set of decision makers.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think I'd love to see this on the calendar for the board conversations, wherever you're gonna put it.
Dr. Pittman?
Yes, just a point of clarification, particularly Ms. Rogers lifting your question about what the process might be if a family needed to change their decision. The acceptance of a magnet seat this year is binding, but the normal process would be the families could submit an appeal and we would work with those families, but there is a process that we would shepherd them through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? And I think I'm trying to balance, as I think we all are, this desire to make sure that we move forward with as much information as possible with also informing our families in a more timely way than we've been able to do this year. Because this doesn't feel good to me to be telling them right now. And I don't want next year for this to happen again, where we're telling families after they've accepted a lottery seat that we're moving forward with additional schools for the following year. I think that's my primary concern with not giving transportation the leeway to do what they need. So maybe an alternative, does somebody have a proposal for like, by this date in the fall, this needs to come back to the board? Because I would love to hear that, as we're trying to balance those two things.
Yeah, I think after, I'm sorry, I just spoke out of turn, but after Q1, what's that, October-ish? If that data could come to the board at that point, that is before Showcase of Schools, which normally happens in November, and the application process starts in January. So that gives plenty of time for even 2 meetings if you need it, before families are entering into the application process. I think I did that math right. I'm looking around, I see head shakes. So that timeline.
Yes, ma'am.
How does that feel for other board members? Instead of making a decision tonight on anything beyond the first 2 schools, to receive data in the fall prior to Showcase of Schools and make a decision at that point. I see Ms. Rogers maybe, and then Mr. Barnes, did you have something? Okay.
It feels a little early to me. And I understand the Showcase of Schools. Only reason I say it feels a little early is because things are just really settling in at the end of the first quarter. You can't we could do first and second. I know that there's like a 10-day waiting period after school starts to request a bus stop. And that puts us a little further in. And then you're the 20-day ADM to see what people are doing, if they are keeping their seats, what they're, all those things, if they're staying in the year-round program, if they're going back to traditional. And so I want to give some flexibility in that. So I don't want it too early when students aren't showing up consistently, might still be taking vacations, et cetera, you don't have good data. But I do hear the desire to come before Showcase the Schools. So somewhere in, I want us to be flexible, October, November. At a work session for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say November work session, maybe.
Yeah, that might be feasible. But also like it's out there now that we're considering it for next year. So people do know that going into Showcase the Schools. But when the data is verifiable, and I would expect y'all know more as you continue to build this. And by the time we get to the board retreat where we're making decisions about the board calendar, we can make some more specific decision about that.
Mr. Barnes?
Yeah, I think it's fair enough for us to say that we could do something at the end of the first quarter, and as we start to see trends with the data, then we could come back more often and give you what we're seeing as far as trends are concerning. So I think October, first 9 weeks, and then early in November before the showcase of schools, and we can tell you what the data is saying and what the trends are.
Yes, Ms. Harold Goff.
Is there anything that in order to make it, like if it did move forward, that we're saying that administration is not doing? Like, are they not going to work on what it would look like for all the schools until we have reviewed what they've already done? Is that enough of a time for them to be working on like what this could look like? Like, will they continue to work on what it could look like if we go that far? Or are they not going to do that work until we get the data back for the first year, for the first quarter?
I appreciate that question. So can you
Yes.
help us?
I will say that we have a timeline that we utilize in the transportation department to make sure that everything is squared away for the next year. That starts very early, and we're actually kind of in the middle of the game right now, which I know people are not understanding that this work is happening, but it's happening every day, getting everything together. I think after the first quarter, we kind of understand where we are. We get our state reports in, and we then at that point we start shifting our lens to the next school year. By that time, we will have enough data to be able to see what's working, what's not working, be able to make any kind of adjustments. It would be after we would come back and present kind of where we are, and then we will have enough time to go and operationalize the other schools. Some of the work has already started, as you saw in the presentation, kind of like an outline of what CMA would look like, or Durham Early College of Health Sciences. Some of that work has already happened, but we wouldn't fully operationalize it until we get the 100% go ahead to know that this is working. And then we've already done our own internal audit to say, hey, this is what we need to adjust. This is what we need to fix. This is how we can make things better. And again, because this is a pilot for us, we want to learn from what we're doing. Some of the best plans that we've ever seen have taken some tweaks and some changes, and like I said, we kind of learn from those things, and we're looking forward to going through the learning process. Been partnering with our principals. Like I said, we have Principal Jones here. He's been a great partner with us with this, just kind of working through some things and talking through it and trying to figure out what's going to work best. Dedicated to continuing that work, and we look forward to, like I said, the continued partnership and collaboration amongst all of us and DPS in this venture. So,
And understanding that, I would be fine with, waiting on making, to give, the new board a chance to weigh in and all of that. I'm in favor of that, with us getting data to make that assessment at the end of the first quarter, November-ish or whenever they're laying it out. I would be fine with that. I could work with that.
Okay. So if this comes back to the board, some robust data and a plan for potentially moving forward to expand beyond the 2 pilot schools, if that comes back to the board in November, that gives you enough time to plan for what would need to happen to roll it out.
if we were to come back in November, I could come back with kind of like plus deltas, things that work, things that we've learned, and kind of like a comprehensive comparison data from where we are, and kind of looking at some different trends that we see. I feel comfortable coming back with the information late October, early November.
Thank you. Board, does that feel comfortable to y'all? Can y'all give me a thumbs up if that feels good? Okay. All right. Wonderful. Anything else before we move forward with our next agenda?
About some survey data as well, surveying staff, families of DSA. And so we can definitely have some robust data in Brogdon. Yes, surveying those communities. I will say kudos to Mr. White and his team for an in-depth report. Although the conversations have been about transportation, impact on families, and Express Stop, please know that this is a student-centered decision that we're making. When I hear from Mr. Jones that about 200 to 300 kids are late every day, when I hear from high school principals about structuring their first period in a way to account for buses not getting there on time, we have to make sure that we are looking at the entire system to alleviate that, and the fact that this is also about continuous improvement with our transportation system as well. And definitely kudos to, we've had some previous conversations about what's in our strategic plan about on time arrival, and Mr. White found a way to find that data. And it wasn't people standing out there with a watch seeing if a bus is here. It was GPS reliable data. So kudos to you and your team for that.
Thank you. Thanks so much for all of your work, for being here tonight, answering all of our questions, and sharing all of this with us.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to more.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, the next item on our agenda is for agenda item number 6 for information only, overnight field trips. There's that. Then the next item on the agenda is the item that was moved from the consent to lower in the agenda for the purpose of having additional information added. So that's all been added into board docs now. However, I believe this still remains a consent item unless it's been put, unless somebody wants to have a discussion about it. Yes, Ms. Rogers.
So we would have to, we didn't approve it on consent, so we have to approve it. I think approve the contracts. And my question, the Précy is gone. So my question, I think, is the first question I have is, what's the value of the new contracts? It's not gone. It's gone for me. It just doesn't say Précy. Okay. All right. So what are the value of the contracts?
Hi, Jim Keaton, Child Nutrition. The value of the contracts are not included in the Précies because the values are not determined. It's determined based on the amount of food we use. So we go out to bid with a usage report where we say to Cisco, we're expecting to use 500 cases of chicken nuggets, 300 cases of frozen broccoli, 200 cases of this and that, and we give them an entire usage report. And then as we purchase items, the value comes from what we've purchased. We don't actually know how many kids are going to come to school on which days, how many snow days we're going to have, how much food we don't purchase as to compared to what we planned. We don't know what menu items are going to change based on student acceptability. So the Cisco bid, the usage report is a little over $5 million. That's what we expect to purchase from Cisco. But it's not a determined figure until each week as we order for every school. The milk is based on the individual cartons of milk. We don't know how many kids are going to choose milk at every individual school. So it's based on what flavor of milk they choose. So there's no set amount to our purchasing because ours is so fluid. Same with vegetables. We don't know from week to week from local farmers which products are available, which ones the weather is make them have to cancel not to be able to provide to us. So all of our contracts are written with usage reports where we give an expected usage, and that's what we remain under that value.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. And so you are requesting the board renew each of these contracts, basically an extension of the contracts from what they previously were. Based on usage, I guess we're not done with usage for this year, but based on usage from last year, you didn't see any reason to make modifications, or did you make modifications based on the usage you saw?
We did make modifications. So, for example, with First Hand Foods, it's a local woman-owned business where we purchase meat from. We receive ground beef, and we're receiving pork. Initially, we'd been receiving sausage, but we found that the sausage was not meeting the nutritional standards that we needed to have for the menu pattern, so we had to take the sausage off. We were also purchasing bacon, and bacon did not meet the nutritional standards. So we diverted that money away from sausage and bacon, so that value of that contract dropped based on we didn't use all the uses we initially intended. And then for this coming year, we're going to divert our USDA commodity money to purchase more of the chicken and things directly from USDA, and we're going to use, instead of buying beef from USDA, we're going to buy it more from the local woman-owned business and use the money we would have used for bacon and sausage. So we shift our funds around based on which contracts best fit our menu needs.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Byer.
I'm just ready to make a motion when you're ready for one. Yep. And hungry. I would move that the board approve on consent item 7A, school nutrition services bid renewals for 26-27 school year.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Chavez to approve on consent the school nutrition services bid renewals for school year 26-27. Is there any other discussion?
Not on consent, because we pulled it from consent. It's just a vote.
We didn't modify the agenda during the agenda review and approval.
But we modified it when we approved the consent agenda.
I thought it was a consent item that moved to a different place on the agenda, but it's fine wherever you want it.
That's
And
what
you
I thought.
pulled it anyway because you talked about it, so probably it's action,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
do that.
So do you want to change? the motion then?
Of course. Do I need to restate it? I move that we approve as new item 7A, the school nutrition services bid renewals for 26-27 school year.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Byer and seconded by Ms. Chavez to approve the school nutrition services bid renewals for the school year 26-27. Is there any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a summary of follow-up items. Dr. Pittman?
So for the 23 through 28 strategic plan priority 3 update, there are 4 follow-up items. The first is a request that future strategic plan presentation updates highlight the metrics or data points that are being followed by that priority. The second is that we would provide a written update on the impact of the supplements or differentials for EC, ESL, local master's pay and transportation, if we're able to determine its impact on retention. And if the data is not yet available, how might we be tracking it effectiveness, and how will this impact be tracked? The third is a request that the board receive an update on the communication about how the bonuses for retention and recruitment are being shared with the greater community outside of Durham Public Schools. And the fourth is a consideration for a future board meeting topic being an update on the J1 visa. Did that get approved as an update item? I captured it in the notes. I wasn't sure where the board landed.
We did not do a thumbs up or thumbs down for that. Do you want
Okay.
to do that? Would board members like an update on the international teacher visa conundrum at a future board meeting for us to hear more information and discuss? All those in favor, thumbs up. Okay, anybody not? Okay, that's the majority. So yes.
All
The one
right.
thing I wanted to add, I think that
Yes.
the update on impact of ECESL, transportation, master's pay, you'd mentioned impact on retention. I think there's also an interest in seeing any data indicating impact on recruitment.
For both?
Is that correct, board? Anybody disagree? Okay, thank you.
That was, okay, and recruitment. And then the final item, what we've just lifted up, to bring an update to the board on the express stops in October or November at that work session in preparation for the 27-28 school year. That's all we have.
Thank you, Dr. Pittman. Was there anything that other board members identified that is missing? Thanks so much. All right. That's our agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we go into closed session for the items stated on the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Harold Goff and seconded by Ms. Byer that we go into closed session for the reasons outlined on the agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Thank you very much. We're moving into closed session. As a reminder, we're not going to return to streaming once we return from closed session. So everybody have a great night and thank you for joining us.